many otherwise worthy social, medical, and educational causes, from the birth control movement to the development of psychology to urban sanitation. Psychologists persecuted their patients, teachers stigmatized their students, charitable associations clamored to send those in need of help to lethal chambers they hoped would be constructed. Immigration assistance bureaus convened to send the most needy to sterilization mills. Leaders of the ophthalmology profession conducted a long and chilling political campaign to round up and coercively sterilize every relative of every American with a vision problem. All of this churned throughout America years before the Third Reich rose in Germany. Eugenics targeted all mankind, so of course its scope was global. American eugenic evangelists spawned similar movements and practices throughout Europe, Latin America, and Asia. Forced sterilization laws and regimes took root on every continent. Each local American eugenic ordinance or statute from Virginia to Oregon was promoted internationally as yet another precedent to be emulated by the international movement. A tight-knit network of mainstream medical and eugenical journals, international meetings, and conferences kept the generals and soldiers of eugenics up to date and armed with their nation's next legislative opportunity. Eventually, America's eugenic movement spread to Germany as well, where it caught the fascination of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi movement. Under Hitler, eugenics...
It was America's eugenic movement, Manak. America's eugenic movement. It was the hijacks here that spread it to the Germany situation, right? So, yeah, they try to make it like it's the other way around. Nah, man. They came in, exterminated Naga. I apologize for getting cut off last time. They literally pulled the plug on a Naga. The computer screen went black. Everything froze, man. They be just jamming. And they trying to jam us up, but really, it's beautiful, you know, because we keep going. And it just makes us hungrier. It just makes us thirstier for that water. So, Halal HaWah, hey, Shalom Drop Nation. Hey, Shalom, hey, shout out to Straight Up, man. Click the link below, man. Get Straight Up. Get in his channel, man. He got that drop. All right, man. So, let's just keep going and let's have some fun, man. We're going to get through the rest of this today, man. Let's go.
Eugenics beyond any American eugenicist's dream. National Socialism transcended America's quest for a superior Nordic race into Hitler's drive for an Aryan master race. The Nazis were fond of saying National Socialism is nothing but applied biology. And in 1934, the Richmond Times-Dispatch quoted a prominent American eugenicist as saying, "The Germans are beating us at our own game. The Gypsies, the rape of Poland, and the decimation of all Europe." But none of America's far-reaching scientific racism would have risen above ignorant rants without the backing of corporate philanthropic largesse. Within these pages, you will discover the sad truth of how scientific rationales that drove killer doctors at Auschwitz were first concocted on Long Island at the Carnegie Institution's eugenic enterprise at Cold Spring Harbor. You will see that during the war Hitler regime, the Carnegie Institution, through its Cold Spring Harbor complex, enthusiastically propagandized for the Nazi regime and even distributed anti-Semitic Nazi party films to American high schools. And you will see the links between the Rockefeller Foundation's massive financial grants and the German scientific establishment that began the eugenics programs that were finished by Mengele at Auschwitz. Only after the truth about Nazi extermination became known did the American eugenics movement fade. American eugenics institutions rushed to change their names from eugenics to genetics.
Whoa.
Okay, so I know that was a lot. However, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the unspoken history of the United States. So for most of this video, I will be quoting from Edwin Black's book. In order to compile the research, Mr. Black utilized a network of dozens of researchers, mostly volunteers, working in the United States, England, Germany, and Canada, unearthed some 50,000 documents and period publications from more than 40 archives, dozens of libraries, special collections, and other repositories, page 19. As I read in the introduction, eugenics was international. Why do I mention this fact? Because it goes to show how the white supremacist ideology spread to the majority of the world and why they currently believe in the whitewash history being taught in all of our educational institutions. I'm going to be paraphrasing much of this book due to the fact that it's over 600 pages. That said, I will add page numbers in case you want to find the exact wording in the book. As Mr. Black set out to research in the United States, he found archived information on eugenics at the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, the Truman State University in northern Missouri, to numerous obscure community colleges in the Appalachian states, and a long list of state archives, county historical files, and institutional archives where personal papers and peered materials are stored. He also spent much time in many small private libraries and archives, such as the one maintained by Planned Parenthood. His team examined records at the Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Institution. He also noted there are probably 200 important repositories in America, many of them special collections and manuscript departments of local libraries or universities. Because eugenics was administered on the local level, every state probably possessed 3 to 5 sites hosting important eugenics documentation. Mr. Black noted that many of the propaganda pamphlets used to promote eugenics in the U.S. were purged from files. However, they could still be found in British records, page 20. So that tells me that the United States has and will purge, aka destroy information they don't want people to know about or remember. Mr. Black goes on further to say, because the German and American wings collaborated so closely, the German archives clearly trace the development of German race hygiene as it emulated the American program. More importantly, because the American and German movements functioned as a binary, their leaders bragged to one another and exchanged information constantly. Therefore, he learned much about America's record by examining Reich-era files. For instance, although the number of individuals sterilized in Vermont has eluded researchers in the state, the information is readily available in the files of Nazi organizations. Still on page 20, it says, when it was finished, the journey to discover America's eugenic history had taken me from an austere highway warehouse in Vermont, where the state's official files were stacked right next to the automotive supplies and retrieved by forklift, to the architectonic British Library, to the massive Bundesarchiv in Berlin, and every type of research environment in between. Sometimes I sat in a chair in a reading room, sometimes I poked through boxes in a basement. On to page 22, it states, when we were done, we had assembled a mountain of documentation that clearly chronicled a century of eugenic crusading by America's finest universities, most reputable scientists, most trusted professional and charitable organizations, and most revered corporation foundations. They had collaborated with Department of Agriculture and numerous state agencies in an attempt to breed a new race of Nordic humans, applying the same principles used.
Department of Agriculture, right? So now we got our crops. Now we're talking about being plant-based, right? But these people playing chess, not checkers, man.
To breed cattle and corn. The names define power and prestige in America. The Carnegie Institution, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Harriman Railroad Fortune, Harvard University, Princeton University, Yale University, Stanford University, and the American Medical Association, Margaret Sanger, Oliver Wendell Holmes, Robert Yerkes, Woodrow Wilson, American Museum of Natural History, the American Genetic Association, and a sweeping array of government agencies from the obscure Virginia Bureau of Vital Statistics to the United States State Department. On page 23, Mr. Black states, when the research phase was over, I realized that less than half of the information I had assembled would ever make it into the book. Frankly, I had amassed enough information to write a freestanding book for each of the 21 chapters in this volume. It was painful to pick and choose which information would be included, but I am confident that with so many journalists throughout America now aggressively delving into eugenics, the field will soon be as broad and diverse as the investigations of the Holocaust and American slavery. At least one book could be written for each state, starting with California, which was America's most energetic eugenic state. Do you remember in the beginning of this video, I told you one of the issues I had with this book was that I felt that Mr. Black came across information that would bolster my claim that people of color ruled Europe and the United States before Reconstruction. However, like he states, he had to pick and choose what information to place in the book. Okay, so on page 24, Mr. Black states, this is the right place to note that virtually all the organizations I investigated cooperated with unprecedented rigor because they want the history illuminated as much as anyone. This includes the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Institution, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, and the Max Planck Institute, successor to the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. All gave me unlimited access and unstinting assistance. Alright, so here's my question. Do you think Mr. Black would have been given access to all those inaccessible archives and private collections unless he promised them he would only stick to information regarding eugenics? I truly believe this is the deal that was struck in order for him to be granted this unprecedented access. Alright, so on page 25, Mr. Black states, my mission is to expose who paid for these bleak episodes, who agreed to them, Who made them possible? And who used his lofty status as a university scholar, a medical expert, a governor, a judge, a legislator, a prominent attorney, or wealthy philanthropic organization to press forward on the gear shift of genocide? All right, so why do I mention this paragraph? Because individuals in these positions mentioned above were also responsible for allowing our true history to be rewritten and taught to future generations. I believe power, greed, jealousy, and envy were contributing factors as to why these people did these horrible things. I also believe it's why it's allowed to continue to this very day. According to Mr. Black's book, the man that coined the word eugenics was an English explorer and anthropologist named Sir Francis Galton. However, he was inspired by Gregory Mendel, a Hungarian scientist and teacher, and Galton's cousin, the English naturalist Charles Darwin. These theories took root around the time of the American Civil War, well into the time of the Reconstruction period. Coincidence? I think not. Let me read you a little bit more from the book to give you an idea of what was going on during the early 20th century. Alright, so we're going into chapter 1 of the book, and it's called Mountain Sweeps. It goes on to read, in the 1930s, the Brush Mountain Hill folk, like many other clans scattered throughout the isolated Appalachian slopes, lived in abject poverty. With little education, often without running water or indoor plumbing, and possessing few amenities, they seemed beyond the reach of social progress. Speaking with indistinct drawls and slurred vestigial accents that marked them as hillbillies, dressed in rough-hewn clothing or hand-me-downs, and sometimes diseased or poorly developed due to the long-term effects of squalor and malnutrition, they were easy to despise. Quite simply, polite Virginia society considered them white trash, page 31. These simple mountain people were systematically sterilized under a Virginia law compelling such operations for those ruled unfit. Often, the teenage boys and girls placed under the surgeon's knife did not really comprehend the ramifications. Sometimes they were told they were undergoing an appendectomy or some other unspecified procedure. Generally, they were released after the operation.
I'm trying to see this with a dragonfly perspective, and the more we, key in and zone in on the more and more war and who's really behind this, sterilizing poor white trash it ain't like, oh no, they'll do this to their own. I mean, who's really behind this? In other words, if a black man or black woman or black families of that are connected to old ancient biblical tribes that are confederate against Israel, right? Let's just say it like that. If you white, that's not gonna save you from sterilization. You know what I'm saying? Because they black, like they ain't tripping on that. Especially if you're looking to these creation stories, like they created these non-melanated situations, as their own slaves and servants, and that gets into the magic of things. You know what I'm saying? So looking at it with a dragonfly perspective, poor white trash, to a rich, noble black family, what I'm saying? Yeah, they would definitely be a target. And I guess the more, aristocratic or noble families or richer families or, wealthy, whatever we're talking about, they would be more protected. And if you look at it like that, man, this stuff starts to align even more. How they'll let their own people, or, tribes that look like them that are not them would also be targets, right? So it's like a bunch of people, are falling under this collateral damage. But what's the real target, right? We know that it keeps coming right back home to these Negroes that, are genetically being targeted. Even these nanos and all the stuff we talk about today, these nanoparticle this and all these, spraying in the sky and, all this stuff like that. A lot of this is genetically targeted. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these diseases are genetically targeted. GMOs and all this stuff, they're still targeting the genes, whether they call it genetic or eugenic. It's the gene. Let's get a little more, and then we're going to get some great comments. And I think we belly flop on part 1 on the 29-30 minute mark. So I'm going to get like a couple more, and then we're going to, skip to like the 101 mark because we got all that in part 1, you know what I'm saying? So I'm navigating through this thing, man. The water for surfing the wave. And we in Drop City, man. Let's go.
Many of the victims did not discover why they could not bear children until decades later, when the truth was finally revealed to them by local Virginia investigative reporters and government reformers. Page 32. Western State Hospital in Staunton was not Virginia's only sterilization mill. Others dotted the state's map, including the Colony for Epileptics and the Feeble-Minded near Lynchburg, the nation's largest facility of its kind and the state's greatest center for sterilization. Lynchburg and Western were augmented by hospitals at Petersburg, Williamsburg, and Marion. Lower-class white boys and girls from the mountains, from the outskirts of small towns and big city slums, were sterilized in assembly line fashion. So were American Indians, blacks, epileptics, and those suffering from certain maladies day after day. Thousands of them as though orchestrated by some giant machine. Page 32. Retired Montgomery County Welfare Director Kate Bolton recalled with pride, quote, "The children were legally committed by the court for being feeble-minded, and there was a wait list from here to Lynchburg," end quote, she added. "If you've seen as much suffering and depravity as I have, you can only hope and pray that no one else goes through something like that. We had to stop it at the root," end quote, page 32. Wow, she sounds like Nurse Diesel from the Mel Brooks movie High Anxiety. Crazy. On page 34 it reads, Virginia's victims were among some 60,000 who were forcibly sterilized all across the United States, almost half of them in California.
Wow.
Continuing on to page 34, it says, the movement was called Eugenics. It was conceived on the onset of the 20th century and implemented by America's wealthiest, most powerful, and most learned men against the nation's most vulnerable and helpless. Eugenicists sought to methodically terminate all of the racial and ethnic groups and social classes they disliked or feared. It was nothing less than America's legalized campaign to breed a super race, and not just any super race. Eugenicists wanted a purely Germanic and Nordic super race, enjoying biological domination over all others. Nor was America's crusade a mere domestic crime. Using the power of money, prestige, and international academic exchanges, American eugenicists exported their philosophy to nations throughout the world, including Germany. Decades after the eugenics campaign of mass sterilization and involuntary incarceration of defectives was institutionalized in the United States.
Involuntary incarceration. I mean, yeah, other people are considered collateral damage, man, but these so-called black people, these Negroes right here, we know about this involuntary incarceration. We know about slavery. We know about the methodical termination that's going on with the war on drugs in the 80s. And, you know what I'm saying? It's methodical, man, you know? Dangling a pork chop in front of a pit bull after you stripped it of all his food. It's starving, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So it's methodical. You know, they playing chess. I mean, this reminds me of what scriptures that yeah, Psalms 83. Let's get it. You know, we talked about this before, but I just want to think about this methodical termination. It just sounds a lot like this flow right here, you know. O HaWah, keep not your silence, O not your peace, and be not still, O HaWah, for lo, your enemies are in an uproar. To be sterilizing nations of people, tens of thousands at a time and more. And I mean, what are they doing in our food? What are they doing in our water? What are they doing in our skies, man? You can't answer me, right? You can't tell me, right? Because we don't know what's in our crops, what's in these pesticides they spray. Yeah, we get it from the grocery store. Got the number 9 on the barcode. We thinking it's organic, but damn, is it, man? Your enemies are in an uproar. They that hate you have lifted up the head, right? They invaded you. They lifted up the head. They hold crafty converse. They are methodically terminating you. They hold crafty converse against your people, HaWah, and take counsel against your treasured ones. Who are they doing this eugenics on? on the treasured ones. That's the main target. Everybody else is collateral damage. White trash, this, that. That's cool. Yeah. We'll test it on them. We'll let them fall, you know, with these Nagas, but they take counsel. That means they are meditating, my Naga, with due meditation. And some translations say, man, with due meditation, they are meditating on your downfall, man. They are taking counsel against your treasure ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation. Don't this sound like eugenics? I mean, what do they do with this forced sterilizations or the tenderonis, whatever they doing today, whatever they doing? I don't know. We don't know, right? We don't know, YouTube, right? We don't know. Or are they just kicking it like the old school, kick things back to the old school, right? First Maccabees 3:48. They laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images. Right now we got the Queen Charlotte flow. Now we got the iconoclasm, right? So whether they do the eugenics do this, or are they burning down libraries, hundreds of thousands of documents, millions of documents gone, or are they just taking crafty counsel against your treasured ones? Come, let us cut them off. How do you do that? The same way they did that. Look at the play. Look at the play. They say hindsight is 20/20. Turn around and look at the play. That the name of Hasharah may be no more in remembrance. Israel's no more. We just black. Now we just black. African American. Color. We became a proverb. We became a byword, right? Deuteronomy 28. For they have consulted together with one consent, against thee do they make a covenant. The tents of Edom, Ishmaelites, Moab, Hagrites, right? You got the list. We're just talking about, the children of Lot, that they weren't happy with the lot. They wanted a lot more. Some more and more war. It took all these tribes and more and many more to come together with one consent to say, man, these treasure ones, they gotta go. These treasure ones, they gotta go. We gotta replace their images. Yeah, man, we gotta get them out of here, man. We gotta be the head. Because they have lifted up the head, which means that now they wanna be the head. And I mean, just in due time, take your time and, read this Deuteronomy 28, you know what I'm saying? Read it slow, meditate on it, man. Because it tells you everything you need to know. Everyone's asking, why, boss, why? Malaya, it shall come to pass that if you listen, if you hearken diligently unto the voice of HaWah, your creator, most high over everything, to observe, to do all his commandments, which I command you this day, that HaWah will set you on high. You want to keep the code so you can be high. Judah, right? Right, Judah? Oh, yeah. We had a good time talking antebellum, man. What you talking about? Man, you against the brave? You against good? I mean, that's what the bellicose is coming from. The good, the brave, the warlike, the valorous. You against the one with valor? You opposite good? Yeah, man, we got you, antebellum. We high though. How high do you go? I go Udall high, right? You're supposed to be lofty, man. Now you're supposed to be high, right? Yeah, get out of here, get out of here. Yeah, man, you're supposed to be high. Udall is high. They try to act like, oh, there's no real etymological connection between Utah and Udall or Judah, because, J's are new, right? Udall is Udall, is high, is Judah is supposed to be lofty. You was set high above all the other nations. That's not racist, boss. That's just order. We didn't do this. HaWah got a people. HaWah got treasured ones, right? These treasured ones are set on high above all these nations. That's not racism, man. That's not us, oh, why you letting them divide the human race? Why you let why you dividing black people? What are you talking about, man? This is tribal. The minute you stop seeing as tribal, that means you're liable to get crept up on again and knocked in the back of the head by not gonna look just like you again. When it's tribal, you know that you got your creator, you got your power. You don't need their Christianity, you don't need their Islam. The tribe of Hasharah, the tribe of Judah, the tribe of Manasseh never needed a prophet outside the house of Israel. We never needed to go through the Son to get to the Father. None of this stuff, man. We on high because we hearken, we observe, we witness the code, the frequency. That's tribal. That's the treasured ones. HaWah is tribal. It's not a black thing because all these tribes are black. All the tribes that are confederate against you are black. And everyone else is getting in where they fit in or being used as straw man. We see clearly. The veil is being lifted. We coming out that Ruach Tarde Ma. We waking up. You can't fool us with straw man. You're not gonna fill us with hate. We're not people of hate, but we are people that regulate. You know what I'm saying? Towards each other, we don't have to have that anymore. Either get down or lay down, my nigga. You rocking with the creator or you're not. But if you want things in order, you better let HaWah restore order. And just because you don't think your tribe is chosen as lofty, high above all nations, don't mess up the order of things, because then here you go being jealous and covetous, and that's against the commandments, you see. You're covetous against these tribes and are coveted against each other. The crab and the barrel always pulling each other back down when you see a nugget shining. That jealousy in your heart, that's against the code. You got work to do, my nigga. We got work to do, my nigga. We all got work to do. To observe, to meditate, because they're doing this with due meditation. You better meditate. You better observe all of his commandments, which I command you this day, that HaWah will set you on high, Judah, because the scepter never departs from Judah. Who was Prester John? Above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon you. Now read all these blessings, man, because you're supposed to be blessed when you come in, blessed when you go out. All the people of the earth shall see that the name, verse 10, that the name of HaWah is called upon you. What? Was the last time all the people of the earth, even the hijacks, saw clearly that the name of the Creator is called upon you? And they shall be afraid of you, and HaWah will make you overabundant for good. When's the last time you felt overabundant for good in the fruit of your body, in the fruit of your cattle, in the fruit of your land, in the land which HaWah swore unto your fathers, unto your Amas, to give you? This land was sworn, the land, my knock. right? This is all about land, right? We've been invaded on our own land. They thinking because, oh, we black, we can have this land too. Because we have heritage here. My great great granddaddy came here at some point. It's my land too. I'm a descendant of the European that found you here. It's my land too. No, hijack. Where's your order? Where's your lot? Again, you don't walk around the neighborhood into any neighborhood you want to go to claiming it's your neighborhood. That's out of order. It don't matter if you black. It don't matter if you think you the same as us. You know what I'm saying? Like, where's your hood, man? Where's your neighborhood, man? Where's your spot? Where are you supposed to be at with your people, with your tribe? You acting like this don't matter no more. Like you could just go and do and go wherever you want, take whatever you want. That's a virus. That's how a virus spreads in the body. And that's how they've been spreading on this earth plane. But there is land for the treasured ones. You can't genealogy on this land, man. You can't show no paperwork to HaWah to get this land. This is land that was sworn to the treasured ones. You don't think that exists? You think that's play? You think that's an allegory? Then hey, man, hey, this bud is not for you, man. This drop ain't for you. This is for my dogs that got common sense, that can see that they are in an enclosure, something created by the creator. This is not make believe. This is not an allegory. This is land, my noggin, that is sworn to HaWah's treasured ones. And in the land which HaWah sworn to the fathers to give you, HaWah will open into you his good treasure. Whoa. So when it makes sense that the treasured ones get the treasure, they still looking for a gold. They still looking for a treasure. When it makes sense that the treasure is being preserved for the treasured ones, and doesn't this treasure have a lot to do with the land that HaWah swore unto our ancestors, right? HaWah will open unto you his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain of your land. It's about the land in its season, and to Baruch, to bless all the work of your hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, but shall not borrow, because you ain't no slave. You ain't got to borrow nothing. They have to borrow from you. And HaWah will make you the head. But now the hijack is lifted up the head. And that's where Psalm 83 pick up at. You the head. How did you become the tail? Why are you borrowing from them? Why are you calling yourself black? Why you think you from Africa? You going to the bank to hope to get a loan? Hope you qualify for a house to fit in this society. We all in it. We all going through it. This feels horrible. This feels crazy. It's a horrible feeling to not be who you're supposed to be, to not be high, Judah, to not be Udall no more. We're not Udall. We're not Udall right now, man. We're not the head. Why? Because we stopped listening diligently to the voice of HaWah. We stopped observing the code, the commandments. So therefore, we stopped being set on high above all nations, boss. All nations of the earth. We stopped being set on high the minute we stopped giving higher uh, listening and hearkening and diligently, meditating on not killing from each other, not stealing each other, not killing each other, not stealing from each other, not, keeping HaWah first. You know what I'm saying? The minute we stop putting the creator first, which is rule number one, most high over everything, then we stop being high above all nations of the earth. Verse 12. HaWah will open unto you his good treasure, the heaven, to give the rain of your land in its season, and to bless all the work of your hand, and thou shalt lend into many nations, right? But you shall not borrow, and HaWah will make you the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only. And this is why they mad, son. This is why they mad. Because you were above only. So they had to come together like Voltron to bring you down. But you brought yourself down because it shall come to pass. Oh, let's get it right here. And you shall be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, right? If, here's the big, man, this should be, this should be the biggest word on this page. Because you got to pay attention to the if. If, this is conditional, man. Here's the condition. Here's the condition. Here's the condition. Man, you gotta listen, man. You gotta listen to your parents, man, if you want that treasure. You know what I mean? You want to go out with the homies, man. You gotta listen to your mama and dad. You know, you gotta listen. If you shall listen unto the commandments of HaWah, your power, which I command you this day to observe and to do them, and shall not turn aside from any of the words which I command you this day to the right hand or to the left to go after other gods. See, it's about all the commandments, right? But the one that's always brought up specifically is you going after other gods, right? Hosea 3, playing a harlot, all that, right? So this is the idolatry, right? This is rule number one, right? No idols, right? Don't bow down to them. Don't make no graven image and be worshiping it, giving it power over the creator. Stop being silly, man. That's what a graven image is. It's not a picture. You know, I could write out the Hebrew alphabet, the alphabet. The paleo is all symbols. Is if I write these symbols, am I writing graven images? It's a symbol. Oh no. It's a graven. No, it's an image. It's not a graven image. It's the Paleo Hebrew. If I draw a circle, is that a graven image? So when do you consider something graven? When you're worshiping it, when you're giving it power, when you're, you know, praising this carved whatever it is, you know what I'm saying? You're praising it and, you know, giving it all the praise and the glory, you know what I mean? It's clear, you know, don't be silly, man. Don't go after other gods to serve them. But it shall come to pass, if you will not hearken unto the voice of HaWah, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command you this day, that all these curses, uh-oh, is it magic? Is it witchcraft? Or is it frequency? Is it energy? And is it vibration? What happens when you don't listen to a strict mom and dad? You get cursed with that belt, right? You get cursed with that ass whooping. So a curse is just something you bring on yourself by not listening. Where's your land, boss? We don't want to listen. All right. So you have no land. Curse shall you be in the city. Curse shall you be in the field. Because you don't got no land. You got to be in the city now. You got to be in the field in the slave plantations. Uh-oh. Curse shall be the basket of your kneading trough. Curse shall be the fruit of your body, the fruit of your land, the increase of your kind, the young of your flock. Managa, this is where we at. Because of the evil of your doings, whereby you have forsaken me, the Creator. You've forsaken the Creator. You've forsaken HaWah. We've, as a tribe, forsaken HaWah. This is why HaWah, you know, has temporarily forsaken us. But there's always a remnant, and HaWah never stops loving, you know, the children, the remnant. You know what I'm saying? That bond is never severed, even if it feels, you know, like it's so distant, you know. We know HaWah face to face. We don't want to feel that heat, mama's belt, daddy's belt. We don't want to feel that. Verse 22, HaWah will smite you with consumption, with fever, with inflammation, with a fiery heat, with drought, with blasting, with mildew. Goodness gracious. And thou shalt pursue thee until you perish. But like everything, hey, HaWah will bring a nation against you from afar, man. We ask, like, where these people come from? From the end of the earth. Uh-oh. Flat drop 101. Because a round ball ain't got no ends. It's just a round ball. There's no end to it. It's just a ball, But a plane has ends, at least boundaries. As the vulture swoops down, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand, a nation of fierce countenance, thou shalt not regard the person of old, nor show favor to the young, and he shall eat the fruit of your cattle and the fruit of the ground until thou be destroyed, that also shall not leave thee corn. We just talked about the corn, right? Wine or oil, the increase of your kind, or the young of your flock. They killing everything until he have caused thee to perish. So these are your choices. That's the big if, right? That's the big if. All we got to do is listen diligently. All we got to do is observe. Keep a while first. Don't kill. Don't steal. What part of this is difficult when it comes to the code? Because Exodus 20 got us in code, and I ain't got to reinvent the code. You ain't got to reinvent the code. We ain't got to reinvent the code. This is not, Drop Nation coming up with nothing new, right? We're just observing. This is the code. I am HaWah, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other God. We just talked about that. HaWah's a jealous God, right? Any mother would be pissed off if you called another mother, right? Any father would be pissed off if you called another daddy. Don't act like the creator's tripping. You tripping. No other powers before HaWah. Most of everything. Just tell me what part you disagree with. Don't take the name of HaWah in vain. You want to put HaWah's name on everything. You want to put everything in the name of God. Oh, God said, what I'm saying? Oh, God visited me, and this is what God put on my heart. This is what the Creator put on my heart. Look, man, we can't confirm or deny what's in your heart, what the Creator put on your heart. Stop using that to try to validate what you got to say. Stop using the Creator's name in vain. The name, HaWah, is the breath, security, the secure breath. You don't want no vain breath, and you don't want no vain security. What's security without no breath? And what's breath without security? You need them both, and none of them could be vain. You want vain security? You want some vain bodyguards? you want vain breath? That's no breath. Don't take your breath or your security in vain. You understand? What part do you disagree with about HaWah's code? This is the most ancient code we tapping into. Remember the Shabbat to keep it holy. 6 days you labor, and then you rest. What part do you disagree with rest? You rest every night. You need to breathe, right? Every inhale, exhale, you take a breath. You don't just keep talking forever. You got to take a rest, right? You can't keep working forever. There has to be a time where you look your family in the eye to build your family, to build your tribe. That's rest, to build your frequency with the Creator directly. Close your gates. What part do you disagree with? Honor your frame and your shaper above, right? Honor your father and your mother, that the days may be long upon the land, man. It's about keeping you on your land for a long time by honoring Abba Ama. What? You disagree with that? Thou shalt not murder your brother, your sister? You disagree with that? And there's a difference between murdering and killing, because obviously you got an invader on your land. That's not murder. You see, you gotta put a wall of protection up for your children, for your family. No one could just walk in your house and start popping off, violating, right? So you disagree with that? Yeah, I didn't think so. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Uh, you want to keep mixing with these, foreign frequencies, man. You want to keep mixing out with lesser, substance. HaWah don't like us, mixing nothing pure water, our frequency, and mainly adultery compares to you going after these other gods, right? Because that's when we're being called an adulteress and a harlot and all that. Yeah, you definitely keep your oaths, saying, to each other, and as wives, as husbands, all that. But the creator, even deeper, you don't want you being an adulteress when it comes to who you giving your frequency to, the powers that you serving. And the thing about any of this foreign frequency is that it always led us to foreign powers, to foreign entities, to foreign energy. You ain't gotta, mix down your frequency. You ain't gotta, be someone that has vain oaths when it comes to, your significant other or your creator. Do you disagree with that? This is the code of conduct for a tribe. This code is not given to the world. This code is given to Israel. Because HaWah brought us out of bondage. So we should have no other power before HaWah, our creator. We went in bondage because we chose to be in bondage. Because slavery is a choice. When you out of code, that's what you get. You're going to get mad at your parents for locking you in a room and putting you on timeout when you bad and say, I'm a slave in this house. I can't leave to go play with the homies. No, you little such and such. You better get your ass in the room. Next time I tell you to clean up, I bet you're going to do it. I bet you're going to do it. For real, for real. Oh, now you a slave because, you grounded or whatever the case is, man. You better be lucky. You know what I mean? It could be way worse. Get that switch off the tree, man. Old school, man. What HaWah say about that rod, man? Hey, that's that rod. HaWah say he gonna put that rod on us when we out of code. So do you disagree with not murdering your brother? Do you disagree with not, mixing your frequency out, with lesser substances, with something that isn't pure water, such as these other gods, mostly like these other powers? Do you agree that you should give your energy, direct to the creator, and there should be no wavering? And when you are, married in a situation, that you should give your energy to your spouse, unadulterated, pure water, without mixing it outside your house? I mean, do you agree that you should keep your oaths? Do you agree with the code? Can we build a community simply by keeping the code, even these 9 commandments, right? So far, they say 1, 2, but we know all this is 1. All this is the same transgression. No gods before me. No graven images. That's 1. And then no vanity. That's 2. The Shabbat, that's 3. Honor your frame and your shaper, that's 4. No murder on your brother, your sister, that's 5. No adultery, that's 6. Don't steal from your naga, that's 7. No bearing false witnessing. You weren't a witness to it. You ain't got nothing to do with it. Don't be bringing up your brother and sister's name purposely just to put a smear campaign out, just to lower their vibration, just to, make it look like they something they ain't, so that you can feel like you got some one up on somebody, or, like they call that snitching in the hood. But the big difference is between this and snitching is that, see, back in the day, we had real elders. When something happened, you're supposed to be able to go to your elder and tell them like, what's up. That's not snitching. If, you know, you see an old lady get robbed and you got to tell the elders like, yo, you got to handle this. He can't come back to you and say, man, you snitching on me. Nah, man, I'm telling the elders, man, because you got a problem, man. You know what I'm saying? We got to get this out of the community. We got to deal with this. Or I got to deal with it. You know what I'm saying? So I'd rather go to the elders before I really have to do something. That just makes sense. But these days, we don't have the elders. We got the popo, right? And the popo, that's not our elders. So, going to them in many cases makes the situation sometimes a lot worse. You know what I mean? And you get them in your business, they liable to come do something to you, and you called them. So, it's just all bad when you don't got your elders. Now you bringing in the hijack. So then it became like, no, you can't cooperate at all with no popo, right? On any level, you cannot cooperate because that's bringing it outside of our tribe. That's bringing it outside of our neighborhood when we could just handle it in the street. And that's what they do. And that's also all bad because then you got more murder, right? So the lack of the elders is leading to, this stuff not being dealt with, and no one can go to nobody. There's nobody to go to. There's nobody to bear witness to at all. It's okay to bear witness. If you could save a life, if you could save the homie, if you could save your brother, your sister, it's a good heart that goes with bearing witness. It's an evil heart that goes with bearing false witness. Because now you're setting up a naga. Now you're coming with false testimony just to get a naga in a jam. Can we agree that this is all bad? We agree, right? So what part of the code don't you understand? Don't you, get? Don't you want to connect to today? Is it the Shabbat? Is it the rest? Man, I can do your best, man. I know that these days are crazy and they make everything on Saturdays and everything's, I know, and do your best to close your gates. And again, even if you just get a few hours of that, that's a great step in the right direction, man. I don't think HaWah put us in captivity because of our lack of Shabbats. I believe we in captivity because we kept going after these other guys. And honestly, I don't think we would have been in captivity like this if we didn't break this rule number one the way we did. And everything else followed that. You know what I'm saying? But, keep your Shabbat, man. Keep it holy. And that's the whole point. You want to work your way up to a point where, you're closing your gates and, you're doing the best you can, the most you can. You know what I'm saying? And what part of rest, is something that is difficult for a Naga to get or understand. So when HaWah talk about commandments and code and we read the code and you don't have no problem with the code, you ain't got no problem with not murdering your brother, with not, you know, not breaking your oaths to each other, keeping your situation pure, not stealing from a Naga, man. You know what I'm saying? Not bringing a Naga down, bearing false witness, stuff you ain't got no testimony, no witness to, not coveting your neighbor's house, having that covetous heart. Man, we're going to get back in the code, keep it serious. I think we didn't leave off on covenants. I think we left off on false witness, man. So look out for it. We back, man. So look, a covetous Naga, he sees or she sees what you got and they want that thing. They don't want to be like you or be inspired by you. They want what you got. That's a covetous heart. And you ain't supposed to be covetous towards your brother, your sister, your neighbor's house at all. Whatever they got, their wife, whatever they got, you know what I'm saying? They car, they bank account. You should have a pure heart and just be inspired by them or, look to inspire them to be even greater. Like that should be your heart. And all the people perceived the thunderings and the lightnings and the voice of the horn and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. And they said unto Moshe, speak thou with us and we will hear, but let not HaWah speak with us unless we die, man. Because, yeah, they were shook. What part of this 9 code don't make sense? I think it all makes sense. Number 1, no power before your power. No vanity on your breath and security, number 2. Keep your Shabbat, number 3. Honor your framer and your shaper, number 4. Don't murder, number 5. No adultery, number 6. Don't steal, number 7. No false witness, number 8. And number 9, no covetous heartbone. Then you could pop off with some thundering and some lightning and some mountain smoking, man. Cause HaWah's popping off with dragon fire, man. I'm just saying, man, I didn't mean to, take this particular, route, go through all this, but when the heart bone feels that frequency, man, I think every time we go through it, it hits a little different. You know what I'm saying? And if this hits you a little different this time, then go ahead and leave me a comment, man. Just leave the number 9 for a Naga for the 9 code. Leave the number 9 for the 9 code if this is hitting you like it's hitting me, man. And again, why are they doing this? Because the head is being lifted, right? Now that we're not the head, we're the tail, right? They're taking counsel against us, the treasured ones, the same treasured ones that stop listening to the Creator. And they have said, let us cut them off from being a nation, the same nation that stopped observing the code, the commandments of HaWah, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance, the same Israel that turned to other gods. That's who they're consulting together with one consent. Against you, do they make a covenant, man? They all got to team up against you, man. Who's behind the scenes for real, for real? I mean, for real, for real. Let's go. Matter of fact, it's a good point right here to belly flop and take it all home to 101.
The corporation's capital.
And shout out straight up again. Go click the link below, man. Straight up. Got the drop straight up. I'm going to get a little more of that. I'm going to go into some great comments that y'all leaving, man, and take it on home, man, for the dismount.
Fund, originally donated as a value of about $135 million, had a market value of $1.55 billion on March 31st, 1999. Then it says during 1911 and 1912, Carnegie gave the corporation $125 million, making it the largest single philanthropic trust ever established up to that time. As the residual legatee under his will, the corporation received an additional $10 million when the estate was settled. Carnegie earmarked a portion of the endowment to be used for philanthropic purposes in Canada and what were then the British colonies. This part of the endowment was first known as the Special Fund, then the British Dominions and Colonials Fund, and later the Commonwealth Program. Charter amendments have allowed the corporation to use 7.4% of its income in countries that are or have been members of the British Commonwealth. Alright, so I'm getting to the end of this section, but let me show you this page that I got from History of Ireland, Winter 1998, Volume 6, page 25, by Brandon Grimes, published by World Weld Ltd. As you can see in the photo there, Bangor Library, County Down, designed by E.L. Wood, opened in 1910 as both a school and a library. Alright, so the heading of this article is Carnegie Libraries in Ireland by Brandon Grimes. And it goes on to read, Andrew Carnegie, 1835 to 1919, immigrated with his parents from Scotland to America in 1848. He became exceptionally successful in the steel business, eventually gaining a near monopoly of steel production in the U.S. In 1901, he sold the Carnegie Corporation and all its holdings to John Pierpont Morgan's Federal Steel Company for $480 million. Alright, so I'm going to skip down the paragraph to where it says, one of Carnegie's first gifts after he sold his company was $5,200,000 to New York City for the construction of 65 branch libraries. Carnegie had given money for libraries before, but he was now to devote himself to a philanthropic career, and it was not long before Ireland was to benefit. By early 1905, he had pledged $39,325,240 for 1,200 libraries in English-speaking countries, and of this money, $598,000 was for Ireland. He and his trust were to finance more than twice that number before the library program came to an end. Estimates of the number of libraries he paid for varied between 2,500 and 2,509. It was not only the libraries that Carnegie was interested in. He endowed trusts for universities, the advancement of science, etc. His wealth was so vast and increasing from the interest on the capital that he found it difficult to match his philanthropic schemes with the money he had. I kind of like that he used the word schemes because that's exactly what he was up to. Between 1897 and 1913, he promised over 170,000 to pay for the building of about 80 libraries in Ireland. 66 of the libraries were built and 62 of them have survived. Although the money that Carnegie gave for the Irish libraries was small in proportion to his total expenditure, it greatly helped the library movement in Ireland. In 1919, 81% of the towns in Ireland which had rate-supported libraries received contributions from Carnegie. This compares with 65% for Scotland and 49% for England and Wales. All right, folks, what I'm showing here is the very philanthropists that were financing eugenics in the United States, Europe, and other countries like Mexico were allowed to rebuild the libraries and collections of these devastated countries that had been destroyed by war. These foreign countries allow these philanthropists to use their money to buy their way into being allowed to recreate these libraries with eugenics at the core. Controlling access to information was given to philanthropists who were ardent eugenicists. Why were these wealthy individuals so intent on helping foreign countries rebuild their libraries and institutions of knowledge? I believe they wanted to ensure Europe's rewritten history agreed with the United States' rewritten version of history. To ensure that happened, they had to be in full control of the information these countries received and excluded. How better to do that than by financing the entire endeavor? These philanthropists essentially were in control of what Europeans thought about not only their history, but also American history. Remember, much of early American history is intertwined with European history. Let me reiterate, these wealthy eugenicists were able to recreate European history and U.S. history, and they did so by funding libraries, universities, and other centers of knowledge on both continents under the guise of philanthropy. Okay, so this is just a small fraction of information on how the negative eugenics ideology was spread from the United States to Europe and around the world. I will definitely be going more in depth with future videos. Alright, so now I'm going to change gears, and I'm going to talk about the people responsible for eugenics and our rewritten history. The people that had something to hide have actually hidden what they don't want you to see. And to keep the false narrative going, they continue to hide the information. The real issue is who controls the information and who has access to the information. Papers, books, recordings, newspapers, journals, all can be altered, destroyed, or hidden. As I mentioned earlier, currently in Florida, Governor DeSantis ordered books to be taken off the shelves because they were deemed offensive, along with removing curriculum regarding Black American history. This has caused a serious outcry from thousands of teachers and Floridians, not to mention other concerned American citizens. The sad thing is, I'm not surprised by this move. It's already been done in the past. DeSantis is just taking a move out of a very old playbook. Since the end of Reconstruction, Congress, along with the Republican Party, which was the party that implemented Reconstruction, folded their hands and let the very individuals that tried to divide the country with the secession movement back into the seats of power to exact their revenge and set up society as to never again allow people of color, aka Black people, to return to power. If I'm confusing you when I say Black people returning to power, that means you haven't watched my previous videos. So do me a favor and please check them out so you will be caught up with my other channel subscribers. Alright folks, take a deep breath. If you need an intermission, I get it. It's a lot of information.
You know, I appreciate that, man. Man, straight up, man. You was straight up on time, man. Sometime, man. Y'all get to drive, man. All them videos he's talking about, it really goes pretty seamlessly with our investigation, which is what I really dig on it. And shout out to my Naga that dropped this. I can't remember who you are, but leave me a comment, let me know so I can give you some AI, man. This is real dope because, again, you know, he's bringing out something that we've been poking at for a minute, man, that they don't want you to return. They don't want us to return at all, right? But we will return. We know we will return, you know, even when we out of code, even when we playing a harlot, we know we get this all the time and depress the flow, but Israel will return, right? All through Isaiah, everyone's talking about your return. Jeremiah's talking about your return. Hosea is talking about your return. Ezekiel was talking about two sticks being put back together. Ezekiel was talking about your return. Deuteronomy's talking about your return. Everyone's talking about your return. So with all this, you know, curse business and, you know, business of us being out of code, just know that fast forward, you will return. You know, You will return, Manak. All right? We will return. And we are returning. This ain't no play. Because the children of Israel will return. Yeah, this is after you gone a long time, man. Because you shall not play the harlot, right? Go after these other gods. Yeah, Israel, they keep turning to other gods. Baking raisin cakes to their queen mother of heaven. Going crazy. You keep breaking the code. You keep breaking rule number 1. This means you have no land. Deuteronomy 28. Those blessings turn to curses because you ain't listening. Same thing that will happen in your house if you ain't listening to mama and daddy. This is the same relationship that we got with HaWah. And when we start listening, hey, you can get out of punishment. You get your things back. You get your stuff, right? Because we had to sit solitary many days. For the children of Israel shall sit solitary many days without a con, right? So we didn't have our things, our stuff. We didn't have the things that we would normally, deem sacred, right? We didn't have our treasured things because we weren't being treated any more like treasured ones because we didn't treasure HaWah's code, con. But afterwards, after you go through what you got to go through, sitting solitary many days, afterward, the children of Israel return. This has been said. It's been spoken. It is, and we are. And we are seeking HaWah, the Creator, directly. We didn't go through JC, no. We didn't go through Muhammad, no. We went directly to HaWah. Seeking means to desire greatly, diligently, seeking, right? We are now seeking the code. That's why we just read it again. So no one could say, have no excuse. Oh, man, I didn't get that drop. No, we're going to keep reading Exodus chapter 20. We're going to keep understanding the code because it keeps hitting different. Because now we're seeking HaWah. And when we seek HaWah directly, suddenly we get on this Dawi, nobility, Prester John, Queen Sheba flow, and the regal Negro starts to reemerge because you are returning. And you seek the Creator, you start seeking Dawi. It's been written, it's been spoken. It is, we are, and shall come trembling in our humility to HaWah and His goodness, right? When? In the end. In the end of days. And here we are, researching, returning, and keeping the code. Here we are. So, how's it feel? Is it hard? Let's get a couple minutes and I'll come right back to the comments. Let's go.
Maybe pause the video, get some munchies, and come back for the second half.
Let's go.
All right, so I'm going to be continuing with Mr. Black's book. You may consider this part 2 of the video. I'm going to go into chapter 5 of the book called Legitimizing Raceology. This chapter covers a lot of the perpetrators of eugenics. On page 85, Black writes about Kansas physician F.H.O.E. Plitcher, who became the first in modern times to castrate to prevent procreation. In the mid-1890s, Dr. Plitcher, superintendent of the Kansas Home for the Feeble-Minded, surgically asexualized 58 children. Plitcher's procedure was undertaken without legal sanction. Once discovered, Kansas citizens broadly condemned his actions, demanding he stop. The Kansas Home Embattled Board of Trustees suspended Plitcher's operations, but staunchly defended his work. The board defiantly proclaimed, quote, "Those who are now criticizing Dr. Plitcher will, in a few years, be talking of erecting a monument to his memory," end quote. Later, Dr. Plitcher's National Association of Institution of Directors praised him as courageous and as a pioneer, strong enough to face ignorance and prejudice. Then also on page 85, we have Dr. Harry Clay Sharp, physician at an Indiana reformatory at Jeffersonville. In early 1899, he read an article in the Journal of American Medical Association by distinguished Chicago physician Albert John Ochsner, who later co-founded the American College of Surgeons. Dr. Ochsner advocated compulsory vasectomy of prisoners to eliminate all habitual criminals from the possibility of having children. In this way, Ochsner hoped to reduce not only the number of born criminals, but also chronic inebriates, imbeciles, perverts, and paupers. It goes on to read, the Indiana prison doctor proudly lectured his colleagues about the procedure's advantage in a 1902 article in the New York Medical Journal. He presented the surgery strictly as a tool for human breeding. Quoting an old essay, Sharp railed, "We make the choice of the best rams of our sheep and keep the best dogs. How carefully then should we be in begetting children?"
Wow.
Sharp's article described his method of instructive clinical detail, yet involuntary sterilization was still not legal and was thought by many to be unconstitutional. So he urged his fellow institutional doctors to lobby for both restrictive marriage laws and legal authority for every institutional director in every state to render every male sterile who passes its portals, whether it be in an almshouse, insane asylum, institute for feeble-minded, reformatory, or prison.
Whoa.
Sharp declared that while
Damn. Don't this hit home, my nigga? All my niggas behind the wall, man, we with you, man. You know, many of us have been there, man. You know what I'm saying? And the food they serve, man, and you know, the water to this, I mean, even the commissary, man, like, is it being, you know, sterilized? You know, is it a sterilizing method, man? Like, they are meditating on this to eradicate the genes, hence the eugenics, right? Let's get it.
widespread sterilization was the only rational means of eradicating from our midst a most dangerous and hurtful class. Radical methods are necessary. All right, so I'm now turning to page 87, which reads, biologist David Starr Jordan, president of the University of Indiana, conceived that paupers were indeed parasites. As McCulloch so fervently claimed, Jordan lectured his students and faculty to accept that some men were dwarfs in body and mind. Quickly, Jordan became America's first eminent eugenic theorist. His 1902 book, Blood of a Nation, first articulated the concept of blood as the immutable base of race. He readily proclaimed, quote, "The pauper is the victim of heredity, but neither nature nor society recognizes that as an excuse for his existence," end quote. Jordan left Indiana in 1891 to become the first president of the newly created Stanford University, founded by the estate of wealthy railroad entrepreneur Leland Stanford. While at Stanford, Jordan used his position to further champion the eugenic cause, damning paupers in his writings and leading like-minded elite and national eugenic organizations. On January 29, 1907, the state of Indiana passed a bill making them the first jurisdiction in the world to legislate forced sterilization of its mentally impaired patients, poorhouse residents, and prisoners. Dr. Henry Clay Sharp's knife would now be one of a multitude, and the practice would crisscross the United States. Page 88. Okay, so I just read to you that in 1907, the state of Indiana began forcibly sterilizing prisoners. Question for you. Who do you think the majority of the prisoners were? All right, so moving on to page 89, it states, 3 states did ratify eugenic sterilization in 1909. Washington targeted habitual criminals and rapists, mandating sterilization as additional punishment for the prevention of procreation. Connecticut enacted a law permitting the medical staff at 2 asylums, Middletown and Norwich, to examine patients and their family trees to determine if feeble-minded and insane patients should be sterilized. The physicians were permitted to perform either vasectomies on males or ovarectomies on women. California was the 3rd state to adopt forced sterilization in 1909.
And how many, you know what I'm saying? I mean, this might be a sensitive topic. We don't talk about vasectomies very often, but obviously, you know, that's a way of controlling, you know, childbirth, obviously, and people can make a voluntary decision these days to do this or different types of birth control. And, you know, each family its own. But it seems to be like a popularity, you know, just this vasectomy talk. I don't think our fathers were having the same type of water cooler conversations about vasectomies that seem to be more prevalent, with these generations now. It's almost like the women expect a nigga to get a vasectomy. Like, oh, come on, man, you better do something about that. So, it's like, however it's being pushed, it still seems to be sort of a growing thing where, please get your snip so that you don't get me pregnant and that we don't have no more babies, that type of thing. Whereas before, we was on our land, like we just read, we was ahead, not the tail. We weren't worried about, I mean, obviously, with respect to our queens, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't a situation of, oh, we have too many children and, we can't afford these children. Or, it was just like, we need more children to till this land. We got so much land, we need more children, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, you know, a sister might say, nah, man, chill, man. I ain't doing all that. But yeah, I'm just saying in general, it wasn't so much of a push or the pressure on males to get vasectomies, especially our people, you know what I'm saying? So, but everyone's doing it, right? Everyone's doing it. But is this just another attack on the feeble-minded?
Chapter 720 of the state statutory code permitted castration or sterilization of state convicts and the residents of California Home for the Care and Training of Feeble-Minded Children in Sonoma County. Two institutional bureaucrats could recommend the procedure if they deemed it beneficial to the subject's physical, mental, and moral condition. During the next 2 years, more states attempted to enact eugenic sterilization laws. Efforts in Virginia to pass House Bill 96, calling for the sterilization of all criminals, imbeciles, and idiots in the custody when approved by a committee of experts, died in the legislature. But efforts in other states were successful. Nevada targeted habitual criminals. Iowa authorized the operation of criminals, idiots, feeble-minded, imbeciles, drunk.
And who are the criminals? Again, it's going to be mostly us because we're the ones targeted with these particular criminal laws. Again, war on drugs, war on this. It's all, it's all a playbook. And they get you to bite because you see almost like an open lane or, a free throw. Oh man, well, if I hustle like this, I can get it faster. I can become more successful quicker and get out of this hole from this invasion. But the invasion that's the problem. And then now they want to give us a solution. So they caused the problem by the invasion. They caused the problem with the sterilization, with the attacks, with the biological, chemical warfare that they're putting on us anyway. Love to Yosef to real, silent weapons, quiet wars, go get the drop. Yosef popping off, man. So they create the problem, then they want to offer a solution. Now they say eugenics, sterilization, that's our solution to the imbeciles, to the criminals, to the idiots, to the drunkards. Well, people might be drunk now that don't have land and they've been disenfranchised so much that they don't have anything, and that might have driven them because of depression and all kinds of other systematic situations. They might now be driven to drunkenness. They might now be driven to drugs, and now you're calling them drug fiends. But they weren't when they had all their land. They weren't before the invasion. So the descendants of these royals that you invaded now become drug fiends, now become drunkards. Now you're going to call them imbeciles, sexual perverts, because that's how you want to deem moral anything. How can you tell us about morality? Do you see what you've done? You've forced sterilized people. You've massacred. You've murdered. You've committed genocide on the children, the treasured ones, man. We're the criminals. Ain't that the pot calling the kettle black, man? You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. You stealing our land straight up. How are we the criminals? You don't know how to even plant when you get here. How are we the idiots? How are we the imbeciles? Oh, we get drunker than you? We get drunker than y'all? I need y'all to prove that. I need proof of this. Wait, we do more drugs than y'all do? Oh, I need some proof, man. So they target a nation with all this while ignoring their own flaws and their own absolute evil and wickedness and animalistic, vampire, parasitic behavior.
drunkards, drug fiends, epileptics, plus moral or sexual perverts in its custody. The IO Act was tacked on to a prostitution law. Reading further onto page 89, it states, New Jersey's legislation was passed in 1911. Chapter 190 of its statutory code created a special three-man board of examiners of the feeble-minded, epileptics, and other defectives. The board would systematically identify when procreation was inadvisable for prisoners and children residing in poorhouses and other charitable institutions. The law included not only the feeble-minded, epileptic, and certain criminals, but also a class ambiguously referred to as other defectives. Other defectives could be anyone they didn't like.
Right.
Guess who signed the New Jersey's Eugenics bill into law the year before being sworn in as President of the United States? Yours truly, Woodrow Wilson. Continuing on page 90, New York was next. In April of 1912, New York amended its public health law with Chapter 445, which virtually duplicated New Jersey's eugenic legislation. New York law created its own board of examiners for feeble-minded, epileptics, and other defectives, comprised of a neurologist, a surgeon, and a general physician. Any two of the three examiners could rule whether family history, feeble-mindedness, inherited tendency, or other factors proved that
any two. They needed 2 out of 3. So if they get the neurologist to say, your brain ain't click-clacking to our standards, and then you get a surgeon who, I don't know, looks at your bones and, then you get a general physician, either 2 or 3, then they can now say, sterilize them, boss, sterilize them.
procreation was inadvisable for the patients or prisoners they reviewed. Once again, a so-called patient attorney was to be appointed by the court. Vasectomies, tubal ligations, and full castrations were authorized at the discretion of the board.
Castration.
I won't go through all the states that adopted these laws. Nonetheless, many states followed in the coming years. On page 91 it reads, eugenicists in other countries who had been corresponding together for some years also felt the need to broaden acceptance of their beliefs. All of them wanted eugenic solutions to be applied on a global basis. Their mission, after all, was to completely reshape humanity, not just one corner of it. Toward this end, the Americans worked closely with their counterparts in Germany and England, scheduled an international conference in London. July 1912 was selected because it coincided with a visit to London by Stanford University's Jordan and other eugenic leaders. By now, America's negative eugenics had also been purveyed to like-minded social engineers throughout Europe, especially in Germany and the Scandinavian nations, where theories about Nordic superiority were well received. Hence, this first conference was aptly called the First International Congress on Eugenics, bringing together some several hundred delegates and speakers from across America, Belgium, England, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Spain, and Norway. As I've been preaching in all my videos, many countries use this ideology to get rid of the people they didn't like systematically, thereby reshaping their countries into what they wanted them to be, white-run countries. Please check out my video called Vanishing Black History. In that video, I show how the United States government created its own history and how they exported it to other countries for consumption, thereby creating a blueprint for those countries to emulate. Just like Hitler emulated the United States using the eugenics model. Alright, so on page 94 it reads, some 400 delegates from America and Europe gathered at the University of London in late July of 1912, where for 5 days a diverse assemblage of research papers were presented exploring the social science and heredity of man. 2 French doctors reviewed Parisian insanity records for the previous half-century. Alcoholism as an inheritable trait was debated, but the proceedings were dominated by the U.S. contingent and their theories of racial eugenics. So, the U.S. was not just content on just targeting the feeble-minded or imbeciles. They used it to go after people they considered non-white. It was basically the slippery slope theory. And that theory states, using an idea or course of action which eventually leads to something unacceptable, wrong, or disastrous. And that's from the Oxford Online Languages Dictionary. Alright, so continuing on to page 94, it states, the medical establishment began to take notice as well, presenting eugenics as a legitimate medical concept. The Journal of the American Medical Association's coverage glowed. JAMA's headline rang out, quote, the International Eugenics Congress, an event of great importance to the history of evolution, has taken place, end quote. Its correspondent enthusiastically portrayed the eugenics theory of social Darwinism, spotlighting the destructive quality of charity and stressing the value of disease to the natural order. Charles Davenport, a biologist and eugenics promoter, authored a textbook along with several others. On page 96 it reads, methodically, eugenic texts, especially Davenport's, were integrated into college coursework and in some cases actually spurred a standalone eugenics curriculum. The roster was long and prestigious, encompassing scores of America's finest schools. Harvard University's 2 courses were taught by Drs. East and Castle. Princeton University courses were taught by Dr. Scull and Laughlin himself. Yale's by Dr. Painter, Purdue's by Dr. Smith, the University of Chicago's by Dr. Bish, Northeastern University, a hotbed of radical eugenic thought, offered a course by Dr. Kornhauser, who had interned at Cold Spring Harbor.
Is it play?
So continue on page 96. Eugenics rocketed through academia, becoming an institution virtually overnight. By 1914, some 44 major institutions offered eugenic instruction. Within a decade, that number would swell to hundreds, reaching some 20,000 students annually. High schools quickly adopted eugenic textbooks as well. Typical was George William Hunter's high school biology book, published by the nation's largest secondary school book publisher, the American Book Company. Hunter's 1914 textbook, A Civic Biology, presented in problems echoed many of Davenport's principles. For example, in one passage, Hunter railed against unfit families, spreading disease, immorality, and crime to all parts of the country. His text added, quote, largely for them, the poorhouse and the asylum exist. They take from society, but they give nothing in return. They are true parasites. Before long, the overwhelming...
Like I said, ain't that the pot calling the kettle black? We the parasites you came to our land, spreading disease, spreading the bubonic black plague, calling us black, calling us thieves while stealing our land, calling us criminals while murdering us and lynching us and getting away with it. You've been spreading disease the whole time. That's always been your play. Write yourself silent weapons. Quiet war.
The majority of high schools employed eugenic textbooks that emphasized clear distinctions between superior families and inferior families. I believe this is what many of our great-grandparents grew up learning and believing. Here's something you may find very interesting. On page 97, a man named Henry Goddard, a psychologist and ardent eugenics crusader who became the movement's leading warrior against the feeble-minded. In New Jersey, in 1906, Goddard was hired to direct the research laboratory at the Vineland Training School for Feeble-Minded Girls and Boys in Vineland, New Jersey. Then in 1913, Goddard published an influential book in the eugenics world, The Kallikak Family, a study in the heredity of feeble-mindedness.
Whoa. A study in the heredity of feeble-mindedness in the tradition of the Jukes and the tribe of Ishmael. Goddard traced the ancestry, immorality, and social menace of a large family he named the Kallikaks. Where did Ishmael come from? Because when we was just digging on Psalms 83, minding their own business, because the children of Israel have returned, and they started naming names, listing names of all the jabronis behind us. The first that's popping up is the tents of Edom, the tents of Ishmael, and Moab in them, right? Say it with me, man. Body bag. Body bag for the illusion. Who's behind this? Who have consulted together with one consent? Who is behind the name of Hasharah being no more in remembrance? Who said, come, let us cut them off of being a nation? Who is us, right? A study of heredity of the feeble mind In the tradition of the Jukes and the tribe of Ishmael, gotta trace the ancestry, immorality, social menace of a large family. Let's go.
blindness. In the tradition of the Jukes and the tribal Ishmael, Goddard traced the ancestry, immorality, and social menace of a large family he named the Kallikaks. He created a surname by combining the Greek words for beauty and bad. The story of the Kallikaks presented more than just another defective family patriarch Martin Kallikak from the Revolutionary War era. Was actually a splendid eugenics specimen who fathered an illustrious line of American descendants by his legitimate and eugenically sound Quaker wife. But Goddard claimed that the same Martin Kallikak had also engaged in an illicit affair with a feeble-minded girl, which spawned a race of defective degenerates, foreshadowing a philosophy that low intelligence was a hereditary curse. Goddard wrote that bad Kallikaks were feeble-minded, and no amount of education or good environment can change a feeble-minded individual into a normal one, any more than it can change a red-haired stock into a black-haired stock. To drive his point home, Goddard included a series of photographs of nefarious-looking and supposedly defective Kallikak family members. These photos had been doctored, darkening and distorting the eyes, mouths, and eyebrows, nose, and other facial features to make the adults and children appear stupid. Although retouching published photos was common during this era, the consistent addition of sinister features allowed Goddard to effectively portray the Kallikaks as mental and social defectives. Alright, so let me comment on this section. Do you see where I read that retouching photos was common during this era? This goes to my point in previous videos, when I assert that photos have been altered, replaced, etc. Many commenters on my videos believe that historical photos were not able to be manipulated back then. This is far from the truth. Photos had begun being manipulated in the mid-1800s. By the early 1900s, many photographers were very adept at manipulating photos. Anyway, back to Henry Goddard. On page 98 it states, mass sterilization, in Goddard's view, was merely the first step in corralling the feeble-minded. Sterilization did not diminish sexual function, just reproductive capability. His answer? Mass incarceration in special colonies.
Whoa.
Segregation through colonization seems in the present state of our knowledge to be the ideal and perfectly satisfactory method.
Mass incarceration, there you go. And if you've been behind a wall, you know who's mostly there. What they call it, black and brown people, right? But we know who's the target. Mass sterilization, mass institution, mass incarceration is all coming together in their special colonies, which is just any prisons, any cities these days.
On page 99 it states, Goddard coining a new word, moron. It was derived from moros, Greek for stupid and foolish.
Stop it. I gotta call Capri on behalf of the Moor and the Moorish. Moros does not equate to stupid and foolish. More means great. More means great. I want more rice-a-roni. I want more rice. I want a greater amount. I want more toilet paper. Man. I want more. Man. I want it greater. They want it more, man. Yeah, moroni. I mean, all this is coming from these greats. You know what I'm saying? Now, who's the greats? Well, you can't be greater than HaWah's treasured ones, but I digress for now. They just call it stupid and foolish, but in reality, that was their target. That wasn't just the white people's target. You know what I'm saying? The greats, the treasured ones, was the target of who? Who is it again? You can't get no greater than the treasure ones, right? That's as great as that's as more as you're gonna get. This is as more as you're gonna get. It's HaWah's treasure one, if we're talking great ones. And these are all black people, man. Edom, Ishmaelites, all these are black, right? So even though they would call themselves greats or Moors or really more ish, something like a great, it took all these issues to come together with one consent to make a covenant against thy treasure ones. It took all these issues to make crafty converse against HaWah's people. It took all these issues with all that hate to lift up their head. It took all, it took a whole confederacy, boss. It took a whole confederacy against HaWah's treasure ones. Remember, against is also anti, like antebellum, right? Against what? The brave, the good, the treasure ones. Antebellum is all about being against the treasure ones, my nigga. Whoa, I think we seeing clearly. And while we seeing clearly, I'm gonna get back to the dismount. Just want to get a couple comments from my niggas, man. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, yeah, let's start right here in the drop chatter. Chatter. Just a couple quick shout outs. My niggas over there popping on. We over here jamming right now. What we playing on the drop, man? We got some Lupe. All right, we got some Lupe and Rose. Hey, that's in 432 hertz, man. That's in 432. Man, what's popping in the drop chatter, man? I see the bro Cootie Mayo. He said Shalom Familia. Apologies for being MIA from the Shabbat. Look here, Khan Cootie Mayo. Ahau. Hey man, we one drop nation, and you were never missing in action, bro. You steadily popping off and inspiring, so much water to keep flowing. So the water, Khan, Cootie Mayo, Ahau to the Khan, Melvin, Trey, always popping off. Shalom to the tribe. I've been out for a minute. Everybody checking in, man. I appreciate y'all building on some things on my end. Good to see everybody holding it down. Halal HaWah, it's still M.H.O.E. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I'm talking about. So if you come over here checking in with the tribe, just know that's the credo, man. That's the flow, man. Most high over everything. We get that in order, everything else will follow. We stop playing the harlot. We stop putting in these other powers before our creator. Everything else will follow, man. All right, so that just feels good. When they check in with us, they already know what it is. You know what I'm saying? The creator been showing out. Got some acres coming. So, man, so as soon as you get most high over everything, you telling me that you got some acres coming, Melvin, man, that's what we talking about, man, because this land seems to come pretty expedient when we get back in cold from my little tribe in Alabama. Oh, yeah. He said on that Black Eugenics video you just dropped, I see you drop my city, Birmingham. Remember, I was sending those photos and the mouths and the temple that's still standing to this day. I be in them archives at the library. I try to share this info with my people. They just don't know where we are. I got so much drop on my city, the Birmingham Main Library. We're talking these libraries and University of Alabama are only 35 to 40 minutes apart from each other. The current University of Alabama Library has most of the indigenous history that remained on display at the school. The school is situated between Birmingham and Moundville, Alabama. Alabama always seems like Al or El Abba Ama, right? El Abba Ama, man. Let's go. Ahab, the Con, Melvin, Trey, Colger, Ty Battle dropping that drop as usual. You got to check in at least once a day just to see what Ty Battle dropping at 432thedrop.com in the drop chatter. Just put the password in 1234. For years, that's been getting you through the door, man. And just enjoy it, man. That's all I can say. He said, who were these copper-colored people that the white man found when he discovered the New World? No one knows whence they came, but there are many legends about them. Many have said that the Indians were wild and cruel, that they gave pain to man and beast just to see them suffer. Oh, man, Aquatine's dropping that drop from Indian Traits and Customs. Are we talking Columbus, New World? Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, man, Aquatine dropping that drop. Hey, how Dizzle Fitty. Look at this, man. Look at this, man. Just need you to look at this for a second, man. This is that 9 ether, man. You know what I'm saying? This the ether, man. 9 above the barrier. Hey, hop to the car, man. And when I say we got most high fashion and our designer nagas and, you know what I'm saying, just, creative I mean, visionary knockers coming together, man, to make sure we got the dopest, high quality threads, man, garments, and everything in our future. You know what I'm saying? Our present. This is what we're talking about, man. Ether, M.H.O.E. We talking mem sauce. Look out for the mem sauce with Yosef the Real. These are our first few, clothing lines, that have the most high at the heart bone, so we're not gotta rock their Louis, Versace's, and all the other stuff that worships their gods. You know what I'm saying? We could rock our garments with our creator at the focus and, watch how beautiful and spectacular they are. Watch how we all come together and connect. And if you're a designer, you know what I'm saying, you rocking any part of this fashion flow, you know what I'm saying, that you really want to link up with these cons and, help us create, really our present, you know what I'm saying? Beautiful garments, beautiful fabrics, beautiful designs, all with the most high, nine above the barrier. Tap in, you know what I'm saying? Hit us up, 432 the drop at gmail.com. Hey, definitely get that big dizzle because it's ether is popping off, man. I'm so proud of the bro J Law and Dizzle Fit. He said that ether coming in due time. Ahab and Tawada to the ether squad for keeping the water flowing. Ahab Five Eyes Mom for the inspiration. Big Huno, Ty Bad, Big Brother Nature, Big Temp, Yosef the Real, Natural by Law, Cootie Mayo, OG Conclave A, all my and my con CJ, y'all are the ether. Shalom. We KTC, M.H.O.E. Halal HaWah. Hey, now we see what it's all about. You see that feeling, see that vibe, man. You can't. There ain't nothing synthetic about this vibe. This a tribe that's been built in front of your eyes, in front of your eyes, for real, man. Aquatai got some drive like Martin Luther King dropping that drive. All right. Oh, okay, she's dropping it. Dry Marcus Garvey trying to arrange for American Indians to go back to Africa, and he himself never stepped foot on that landmass. We know about the colonization societies. Dr. King was fighting for American Indians, not Native Americans. Ooh, wee, Aquatai dropping that drop. Martin Luther the King, top of the soul bone. My bro Zion Train dropping links from a Christian savior to a Mongol ruler. Okay, we got to get that drop, man. I'm going to make sure I tap on that. Y'all come in here and get these links, man. I mean, it's free, it's love, it's community. And this is why we on Press the 122, because a drop like this, man. Hey, hop the con Zion. I've never seen this, so I'm going to go ahead and dig on it. And please believe it will be a part of Press the 122. Hey, hop the con Zion Train, man. This is what fills my heart bone. Even when it's like, I might have to, just take a break or, put my attention on my family here, do different things, and I come back here and I see y'all dropping and popping off. It's like I never left. It's like you never left. Everyone's checking in like, hey, I've been MIA, but nah, man, we've been working, man. Everybody been working on your lives, your livelihood, you know what I mean? And really the code, your family, getting that noble flow, that noble frequency going. So, hey, Shalom, big Zion. He said, Shalom to the tribe, maximum respect to the chat. Some press the drop. Hawaii. Hey, how Chickasaw Raccoon said, hey, how Drop Nation. Anyone got any perspective on silver versus copper? Okay. I got a feeling that something important is there. Frequency. Oh boy. Hey, y'all got some drop on silver versus copper with the frequency? Leave a comment, man. Let Chickasaw Raccoon know what's up. Dizzle Fitty dropping some of that language drop. Spell language of the English. Okay. Chickasaw Raccoon still popping off, man. Drop Nation, A-hop to you all. Wanted to stop by to share some things. I've been learning a lot about my tribe's history with the Coon say and have some reservations about it. This is difficult on my spirit because I know many of you have praise for him. I want to emphasize, or I want to emphasis that I do not want to assume too much, but only share a perspective that leaders of my tribe uh, had during his uprising. I recently came across a fiction book that gave more context to the meeting between my sister tribe, the Choctaw, and Tecumseh. I found it very interesting, but I'm struggling finding more sources on that matter. This particular book shares more context on the meeting that I never read about before, just trying to decipher what is fact from fiction. I'm currently in Oklahoma doing some recon, so I hope to report back with more information. I'm not holding my breath, though. One thing I've learned is that my own tribe is withholding a lot of critical information regarding our history. Whoa, I'm getting closer to find out why this may be and the ones responsible for the hijack of my tribe. And he leads the book, man. So this is great drop, Chickasaw, and a couple things stand out right away. One, they hop to all the tribes, and we don't know what we don't know. You know what I'm saying? We can put together enough building blocks to know that wasn't nobody else, trying to tribe up, all the tribes in our confederacy, that not their confederacy. Everybody else was making treaties, so you can't drop all this without talking about the treaties. You know what I'm saying? The treaties kind of give you a pivot point as to, who was going where and what the ideology was, you know what I'm saying, of these particular chiefs, whether they tribed up with tech or they didn't tribe up with tech. Um, I mean, from a Choctaw point of view, depending on who's going to tell the truth about it, we know that to a certain degree, the Choctaw leader and Tecumseh were ops. Like, we know that they were ops to a degree. I forgot the name, but we dug on it before, right? So we know that there was a lot of, back and forth, and Choctaw leader didn't really want to be up under Tecumseh. He didn't want to feel like, he's some type of subject underneath, the tribe, right? Whether you call it tribe of Israel, whether you call it tribe of Judah, whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying? So there seems to be a disconnect between that, but the result was that many of these Choctaw were fighting against Tecumseh when it all went up. That he had to fight against his own brothers and sisters of the Choctaw, or as you say, your sister tribe. So if this information is coming from this sister tribe, where we know that they were ops with tech, of course it's going to be some skewed information. Of course they're going to, probably slander him and say whatever they say. And I ain't clicked the link yet, but I'm just saying, even you say your own tribe is holding crucial information back, and that should tell you everything you need to know right there. But I appreciate you dropping that link, because that's going to give us a lot more ammo, you know what I'm saying, to, spit some rounds on this subject. There's a 50 checking in, man. I appreciate you, man. Hey, Max, say hi to the Shabbat. Halal HaWah had a great Shabbat. That's what we talking about. Because Chickasaw, if we ain't having great Shabbats, we ain't got nothing to eat. It don't even matter what happened between Big Tech and the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, or whatever, if we ain't in code today. So whatever we are deciphering ain't to separate us further, but to peel back the layers. And you see our intention. Our intention is not to just raise up tech, but to appreciate someone that is unifying, to appreciate someone that they're all up against for a reason, for a reason. You know what I'm saying? And with that, perhaps inspire us to get in code so that we don't got to ever repeat this again. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we in the drop chatter, man, popping off, man, with the tribe. Hey, get all the latest drop, all the IG drop flowing, man. Make sure you in there, and remember, history is not fact. His story is not fact. It is fiction inspired by facts. You know what I'm saying? Inspired by that Driznot, man. All right. Just right quick. Y'all have great comments on part one. I'll just get a couple reading off of this, man. There we go. What's this, part one? All right, yeah. Hey, up to all the cons surfing away in part one, man. And Lisa Peters, man, I appreciate this. Shalom, man. I can't wait for part two, so that's why I dropped it so quick, honestly, because you said you couldn't wait for it. So I said, man, let's go, man. We're going to pop off. That was an answer to my prayer. I heard bits and pieces before, but that was so helpful. I'm waiting for the book you write, man. That's dope, man. I mentioned it just to see the feeling, the energy. If the tribe was ready for it, man, and I'm glad. So, if you see me fall back from time to time, just know I'm putting together really like a life's work, man, and that's going to lead to a lot more work. You know what I mean? But good work, work that we can, have as records, man. You know what I'm saying? And with a dragonfly perspective, so no one can do it like us. No one can drop that drop, like we've been doing it, man. So we've earned the right to have this perspective, and I'm grateful that you are looking forward to, my, first major book, publication on the Prester John investigation. Pray and let HaWah do the rest. Be a vessel of His word. Thank you for the excellent work, man. From the heart bone, man, from the gut bone, I feel that. Tennessee, Cherokee. It's a shame to see how everybody work together to do us in. This is all we're talking about, right? So let's ask again, who are we? It's good, or it's got to be something so special about us if everyone else put their differences to the side and did us in. Hey, man, that's the realest thing. That's the coldest thing and the realest thing in real time. Who are we? We got to be something special, man. Hey, I'm Tennessee, B.O.W., what it do? Shalom to the tribe. This is an amazing truth. It makes perfect sense to destroy the truth and build up false information and promote it all across the world. This is complete propaganda. I am looking forward to part 2. Keep up the great work, Drop Nation. We're putting this together in real time. Much love to the family. Wow. Hey, and all y'all, man. Nitzia, Fatty Sim, Diddy I, Ghost Johnson, Michael Levitsky, Gary Ridge, Melissa Leslie, Elford Honore, Honore, Mag, Aqua, what it do? Very interesting. She says, thanks for sharing, Khan. New Madrid earthquake was also said to occur around the same time in 1811, 1812. Right. We gotta keep factoring in these natural disasters because we know that the comet was rocking around the same time. Tecumseh, also known as shooting star or dragon, was popping off at the same time. Um, and again, he's fighting an entire world of confederacies, people that look like him against him on his own land, invaders coming in. He's trying to, utilize the British side more at that time because I think we had some Hebrews on that side. I think he was trying to connect and get some powerhouse against these other invaders. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. We weren't there. You know, we can't judge nobody on any side. I get the fact that you would want to do a treaty because you want to save your people and save your tribe, but that's very small-minded in the hindsight because if it's not all for one and one for all, then we got nothing. If we're not unified, what I'm saying, we're very vulnerable. I'm saying, without that unity, and that's what the Tecumseh did know. And that's what we do give, what I'm saying, honors to Tecumseh for the unity. You know what I mean? And for going out on his shield and his brother, Ten Scott the Hawa, the prophet, what I'm saying? Like, they went out, for the tribe. And you can't do nothing but give triple, honors, man, to the cons, man, because most Nagas aren't prepared or willing to take these steps today. We talking Nat Turner, man. What? Yeah, I mean, we talking all that. But Tecumseh, Dragon Canoe from the Chickamauga. I mean, how you gonna throw some smut on that? They weren't with these treaties with the hijack. They weren't with no deals with the invaders. That's all we talking about. Hey, out to all the cons, man. I appreciate so many great comments on part 1, as well as part 2. Y'all popping off as well, the last part, as we get this dismount. I appreciate y'all too, man. And y'all just keep the water flowing, and what I mean, we're gonna keep keep drinking, man. This water, this high valued, high quality HaWah time. I'm going to read this comment from Richard Howe. Hey, brother, just want to drop a thank you for the link to Straight Up. Let me get it bigger. That's some eye-opening info. Want to also say thanks for continuing to drop info that I can research myself. I repost all your videos and have had others say they enjoyed it, man. That's deep appreciation. Hey, this kind of info has changed the way I see our people and who we actually are. Even in my very senior years, I find myself hungry to learn more. Halal HaWah. I am grateful for young brothers like you leading the way. Thank you again. The Wada, my brother Richard Howe, and I give all praise to Hawaii, and I give so much credit to Drop Nation as a collective, you know what I'm saying? Because Drop Nation, you know what I'm saying? The nation with that water is who Hawaii put here to, keep the water flowing and lead that way. And I'm grateful to do my, you know what I'm saying, diligence in it, but it's so many moving parts, you know what I'm saying? And all praise Hawaii for all the cons and Drop Nation. I'll talk to this one, A-Hop, to you, man. Excellent build. Thanks for all the years of work. And again, that's Drop Nation putting in those years of work. A-Hop to Iconic, he said, everywhere ain't your turf. Nagas be like, you know where you at, homie? Man, preach to him. For real, you don't just go to any hood talking about I'm home. Somebody gonna ask you where you from. All right, somebody gonna say, you know where you at? This is my barrio. 100. Hey, Zion up, man. Hey, love to Ron Lewis, Tootie Smith. Hey, Templar, love to you, man. I see you, bro. I appreciate you. Not factual, not factitious or artificial, similar but different. In order to slay that chemical serpent, one must remove the seed of truth from which it stems. No source equals no power. Like only Templar can drive. We appreciate you, Templar. Tootie Smith says, look at the Jamaican flag and the Royals emblem symbols. I think we gotta look deeper at that. Okay, Tootie. Okay, Iconic. Justin Booker, man, yeah, okay. Brian Henry, M.H.O.E, all the cons. Charles Johnson, stay the course with it. Do Isaiah Brown. Oh, you talking about shit today? Hey, man, we talking. Right? We talking that frequency talk. We talking crazy talk. Isaiah Brown, appreciate you. He says they use our energy to fuel their shit. Order, man, and chaos. Done created their own God out of the two unnatural. When it's divine, it's pure order, and chaos create balance. Is God the true God? Oh yeah, well, with the balance and the order, we need the code. It's very simple. Mama T, nice pick of you and your wife. Hey, Aquashare Candy got dropped. Making a Naga look good. Making a Naga look good, man. Hey, we out of here. Let's get this for the dismount. You know what I'm saying? Black Eugenics, man. Love to Straight Up.
By 1913, he had taken his new intelligence test and a team of testers to Ellis Island to conduct experiments. American eugenicists long believed that the majority of immigrants, especially brown-haired Irish, Eastern European Jews, and Southeastern Italians, were genetically defective. He explained, it should be noted that the immigration of recent years is of a decidedly different character from the earlier immigration. It is no longer representative of the respective races. It is admitted on all sides that we are now getting the poorest of each race. On page 100 it states, Chicago Municipal Chief Judge Harry Olson, responsible for sentencing prisoners to the House of Corrections, was a revered leader of the eugenics movement. At the time of the House of Corrections study, he reminded colleagues, quote, we have laid too great importance on the environmental factors and paid too little attention to the problem of heredity, end quote. On the same page, it continues on to say, mental tests applied to blacks led to an article in the Archives of Psychology reporting that when 486 whites and 907 blacks were examined, blacks scored only 3/4 as well as their white counterparts. The article noted that pure blacks tested the lowest, about 60% lower than whites. But as the amount of white blood increased in their ancestry, so did their test scores. It does not seem possible to raise the scholastic attainments of the Negro. It is probable that no expenditure of time or money would accomplish this end, since education cannot create mental power.
Ain't that something? So we got more mental power the more white we are. We test higher in their biased scores and biased languages and biased education system somehow correlate positively the more white we get. Somehow there's a correlation between test scores and whiteness. I wonder what that has to do with bias and the system. Are they truly testing intelligence? Are they truly testing pop-offness? Are they testing adaptability and their slave vibration under all their towers blazing their separating frequency on us? All these attacks we got to go through to get to school, to get to these situations. Now we got to be examined by you to see if our IQ pleases you, man. These people don't even want to be in them tests. Pure blacks tested the lows. Pure blacks didn't give a shit about your test, man. All right, let's go.
Then on to page 101 it reads, quote, Harvard psychologist Robert Yerkes was a leading eugenic theorist and a former student of Davenport's. Yerkes was a member of many elite eugenic committees, including a committee on the inheritance of mental traits and the committee on the genetic basis of human behavior. 2 years after helping invent the point scale, Yerkes became president of the American Psychological Association. Europe exploded into the war in 1914. America did not join the fray until 1917, but when it did, Washington struggled to classify more than 3 million drafted and enlisted soldiers. American Psychological Association President Yerkes pleaded for intelligence testing. He gathered Goddard and Stanford University eugenic activist Louis Terman and others to help develop standardized examinations. Working from May to July of 1917 at Goddard's laboratory at the Vineland Training School for Feeble-Minded Girls and Boys in New Jersey, these eugenic psychologists and others jointly developed what they portrayed as scientifically designed Army intelligence tests. These were submitted to the Army and the Surgeon General, soon authorizing mass testing. 2 main tests were devised: the written Army Alpha test for English-speaking literate men, and the pictorial Army Beta test for those who could not read or speak English. The Alpha test's multiple-choice questions could certainly be answered by sophisticated urbanites familiar with the country's latest consumer products, popular art, and entertainment. Yet, most of America's draftees hailed from unsophisticated rural society. Large numbers of them had never been off the farm. Many came from insular religious families, which disdained theater, slick magazines, and smoking. No matter, the mental capacity of everyone who could read and write was measured by the same pop culture yardstick. Take a look at several examples of these questions provided from the book. The first one says, question, 500 is played with, then possible answers, rackets, pins, cards, dice, correct response, cards. Second one there says, question, Becky Sharp appears in, possible answers, Vanity Fair, Romola, The Christmas Carol, Henry V, correct response, Vanity Fair. Next one, question, the Pierce Arrow car is made in, possible answers, Buffalo, Detroit, Toledo, Flint, correct response.
Look at this shit, man. This is what y'all judging black genius off of? Naga genius? This is where we are coming in last place? Because you asking us, Margaret Clark is known as, man, nigga, get what, Velvet Joe and Pierce Arrow car? Like, you're not asking us nothing significant to us. You try to see how much we are adapting in your society.
Buffalo. Next question is, Marguerite Clark is known as a possible answer, suffragist, singer, movie actress, writer, correct response, movie actress. Next question, Velvet Joe appears in the advertisement for, possible answers, tooth powder, dry goods, tobacco, soap, correct response, tobacco. Alright, so for the last question says, hasn't scratched yet, is used in advertising A, possible answers, drink, revolver, flour, cleanser, correct response, cleanser. Alright, so the book goes on to read, Americans and naturalized immigrants who could neither read nor write English were administered the Beta picture exam. For example, Beta Test 6 offered 20 simple sketches with something missing. Fix it, the subject was instructed. He was then expected to pencil in the missing element. Bowling balls were missing from a bowling lane. The center net was subtracted from the tennis court. The incandescent filament was erased from the light bulb.
You think these people was tripping on tennis courts and bowling lanes at this time? These are Nagas that know they are indigenous.
A stamp was missing from a postcard. The upper left diamond was missing from a sketch of the Jack of Diamonds on a playing card.
Come on.
All right, so moving on to page 102. Predictable. Yerkes' results from all three tests identified vast numbers of morons among the eugenically inferior groups, so that Yerkes asserted the army could not afford to reject all of them and still go to war. It would be totally impossible to exclude all morons, reported Yerkes, because 47% of whites and 89% of Negroes were shown to have a mental capacity below that of a 13-year-old. All right, so let me comment here real quick. We can see that the Army tests, they were rigged in favor of the well-educated, wealthy elite, not the average man that was signing up to be drafted into military service. Remember, there was no social media during those times. To stay up to date with current events and happenings, you would have to have been subscribed to multiple newspapers and magazines and have actually had the time to read them, which most hardworking Americans had very little of. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, the literacy rate in the early 1900s was very low, especially among foreign-born immigrants and Black Americans. All right, so getting back to the book, it says, in 1912, the German psychologist William Stern had begun referring to the original intelligence level as an intelligence age. Stern went further, dividing the intelligence age by the chronological age to create a ratio. In doing so, he coined the term intelligence quotient. In 1916, used the Stanford-Binet test, determined divided mental age by chronological age, and then multiplied by 100. This became the American version of the intelligence quotient. Terman nicknamed it IQ. The moniker became an instant icon of intelligence. Scales and rankings were devised. Those classified below a certain level, 70 scale points, were graded as either morons, imbeciles, or idiots. Feeble-mindedness had now a number. Soon everyone would receive one. Terman knew how such a number would be used. While studying California public school children, he argued, quote, if we would preserve our state for a class of people worthy of possessing it, we must prevent as far as possible the propagation of mental degenerates. Yerkes' work was advanced by another eugenic activist, Princeton psychologist Carl Brigham. A radical raceologist, Brigham analyzed Yerkes' findings for the world at large, casting them as eugenic evidence of Nordic supremacy and the racial inferiority of virtually everyone else. Brigham's 1922 book, A Study of the American Intelligence, published by no less than Princeton University Press, openly conceded that the volume was based on two earlier raceological books, Madison Grant's virulently racist Passing of the Great Race and William Ripley's equally biased Races of Europe. On page 103 it continues, the decline of intelligence is due to two factors, the change in the races migrating to this country and to the additional factor of sending of the lower and lower representatives of each race. The conclusion that our test results indicate a genuine intellectual superiority of the Nordic group over the Alpine and Mediterranean groups. According to Brigham, Negro intelligence was predestined by racial heredity, but could be improved by the greater amount of admixture of white blood. Brigham concluded, according to all the evidence available then, American intelligence was declining and will proceed with an accelerated rate as the racial admixture becomes more and more extensive. The decline in American intelligence will become more rapid than the decline of the intelligence of European national groups, he warned. Owing to the presence here of the Negro, he added, the results which we obtained by interpreting the Army data support Mr. Madison Grant's thesis of the superiority of the Nordic type. Quickly, a study of the American intelligence became a scientific standard. Shortly after its publication, Brigham adapted the Army Alpha test for use as a college entrance exam. It was first administered to Princeton freshmen and applicants to Cooper University. Later, the College Board asked Brigham to head a committee to create a qualifying test for other private colleges in the Northeast and eventually across the country. Brigham's effort produced the Scholastic Aptitude Test, administered mainly to upper middle-class white students. The test quickly became known as the SAT and was eventually employed at colleges across the country. Over time, more and more colleges required high school students to take the test and score high enough to qualify for application. The deeply flawed roots of the IQ test, the SAT, and most other American intelligence tests were more than apparent to many thinking people of the period. It became glaringly obvious that the tests were vehicles of cultural exclusion. Poor scoring Southern Italian immigrants who had not known who the latest Broadway stars were or which brands of flour were popular. They were, however, steeped in the aries of operatic masters and the arts in general, and had discovered the secrets of fine cooking centuries before. Jews who were overwhelmingly scored as moronic were often only literate in Yiddish, but they enjoyed a rich tradition of Talmudic scholarship that debated to abstraction the very essence of life and God's will. Farm boys may not have been aware that Velvet Joe was a cigarette advertising character, but they grasped the intricate agrarian tenets of growing and curing tobacco leaves to produce the perfect smoke. Blacks might not have been able to decipher the reading, writing, and arithmetic denied to them by a discriminatory educational system intent on keeping them illiterate. They may not have been able to comprehend the first thing about tennis nets, bowling lanes, and incandescent light bulbs, but the descendants of men and women ripped from Africa had cultivated a rich oral storytelling tradition, an intense, almost enraptured scriptural quoting religion, and as a group they would originate the revolutionary music that would dominate the 20th century. Okay, so I have two issues here. First of all, Mr. Black, like so many researchers, failed to acknowledge that labeling all people with dark skin as African is ignorant and frankly lazy scholarship. Presently, we know that people with dark skin are present and have been present on all continents with the exception of Antarctica. Secondly, people of color have always dominated music.
I call Capri on that Antarctica drop, but let's go. Let's go.
Prior to the 20th century, so yeah, missed me on that one. Now, I did warn you in the beginning of this video that I had some issues with this book as it pertained to people of color, aka Black people. Alright, so back to the book where it continues on about Black Americans. It goes on to say, perhaps most remarkably, they were smart enough to stay alive in a world where an uppity black man with too much on the ball or too much spring in his step could be lynched for looking in the wrong direction or asking too many questions. On page 105 it states, in 1929, Brigham finally rejected those scholarly publications that asserted a racial basis for intelligence, including his own. Whether out of shame or embarrassment, the Princeton scholar submitted, quote, comparative studies of various national and racial groups may not be made with existing tests. One of the most pretentious of these comparative racial studies, the writer's own, was without foundation, end quote. There's another quote. It says, meaningful as they were to the history of science, the several quiet recantations were published in obscure medical and scholarly journals. Academia could relish the debate and savor the progress, but the system hewn in stone by the eugenics movement's intelligence warriors has stubbornly remained in place to this day. By the time some scientists saw the folly of their fiction, the politicians, legislators, educators, and social workers who had adopted eugenic intelligence notions as firm science had enacted laws, procedures, systems, and policies to enforce their tenets. Quiet apologies came too late for thousands of Americans who would be chased down by quotants, scales, and derisive labels eugenics had branded upon them. No longer constrained by newness or lack of scientific proof, the eugenic crusade blitzed across America. The weak, the socially maligned, the defenseless, and the scientifically indefensible of America's lowest biological caste would now be sterilized by the thousands, and in some cases, euthanized. Alright, so moving on to chapter 6 called The United States of Sterilization. On page 107, it says, quote, during the years bracketing World War I, a potent, if unsound, intelligence classification system was taking root. A patchwork of largely inert state sterilization laws awaited greater validation. The elite thinkers of American medicine, science, and higher education were busy expanding the body of eugenic knowledge and evangelizing its tenets. However, the moment had still not arrived for eugenic rhetoric to massively impact the country. During these percolating years, Davenport and Laughlin continued to prepare the groundwork. They knew humanity could not be recreated overnight. They were patient men. Alright, so let me comment here. Do you see where Mr. Black states, quote, they knew humanity could not be recreated overnight. They were patient men. This, in my estimation, was the groundwork for our rewritten history. These ardent eugenicists in key positions throughout the country and the world slowly manipulated and strategized their way into changing the United States going forward. Okay, so continuing on to page 107, during the war years, eugenic organizations proliferated in America. Like-minded citizens found ethnic solace and even self-vindication in the idea of biological superiority. The Race Betterment Foundation was among the leading eugenic organizations that sprouted around the country to augment the work at Cold Spring Harbor. The society was founded by yet another wealthy American, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg of Battle Creek, Michigan. Dr. Kellogg was a member of the State Board of Health and operated a healthy sanitarium renowned for its alternative and fanciful food regimens. He had developed for his patients a natural product, a cereal made of wheat flakes. In 1898, Dr. Kellogg's brother, Will, created the cornflake, and in 1906, he began selling it commercially through a company that would ultimately become the cereal giant known as Kellogg Company. In the same year, Dr. Kellogg founded the Race Betterment Foundation to help stop the propagation of defectives. The Race Betterment Foundation attracted some of the most radical elements of the eugenics community. The organization wanted to compile its own eugenic registry, listing the backgrounds of as many Americans as possible. This to augment the one being developed by the Eugenics Record Office. In 1914, Dr. Kellogg organized the first Race Betterment Conference in Battle Creek, Michigan. The conference's purpose was to lay the foundations for the creation of a super race, amid an atmosphere of lavish banquets, stirring calls to biological action, and scientific grandiloquence. We have wonderful new races of horses, cows, pigs, argued Dr. Kellogg. Why should we not have a new and improved race of men? He wanted the white races of Europe to establish a race of human thoroughbreds. Davenport told the Battle Creek conferences that this could be accomplished by working quietly with the heads of state institutions. The superintendents of state institutions, he explained, were very desirous of assistance. Alright folks, just as a side note, this previous statement shows the collusion of these superintendents on behalf of eugenics to further white superiority. Let me ask you, where did it stop? There were people believing this nonsense at all levels of society. Again, this is how we got the false history and education we are given today. Just let that sink in for a minute. Okay, getting back to the book, it states, whatever restraint Laughlin used in his formal writings was absent from his speeches to the eugenic vanguard. Laughlin boldly put the Battle Creek gathering on notice. Quote, to purify the breeding stock of the race at all costs is the slogan of eugenics, end quote. His three-pronged program was based on sterilization, mass incarceration, and sweeping immigration restrictions. Okay, sorry for chiming in again so soon. However, based on what I just read, it occurred to me that we have mass incarceration and immigration restrictions going on today. I guess the plan is still in place, right? All right, so getting back to the book, it says, at the second Race Betterment Conference held the next year, ERO Scientific Director Irving Fisher, a Yale University economist, was equally blunt. Quote, gentlemen and ladies, end quote, Fisher sermonized. Quote, you have not any idea unless you have studied the subject mathematically how rapidly we could exterminate this contamination if we really got at it, or how rapidly the contamination goes on if we do not get at it. All right, moving on to page 109. Eugenic extremism enjoyed layer upon layer of scientific veneer, not only because eminent scholars enunciated its doctrine and advanced its solutions, but also by virtue of its numerous respected research bodies. The Eugenics Record Office had inaugurated a board of scientific directors in December of 1912. The board was initially comprised of Davenport, plus eminent Harvard neuropathologist E.E. Southard, Alexander Graham Bell, and renowned Johns Hopkins University pathologist William Welsh. Welsh enjoyed impeccable qualifications. He had served as both the first scientific director of the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research and as a trustee of the Carnegie Institution. Moreover, before and during his term on the ERO's scientific board, Welsh was also elected president of the American Association for the Advancement of Sciences, the American Medical Association, and the National Academy of Science. Understandably, Laughlin and Davenport felt only fitting that he should serve as chairman of the ERO's board of scientific directors. Among the biological issues the board identified as vital were the, quote, consequences of marriages between distinct races, miscegenation, end quote. Again, another quote, the study of America's most effective bloodlines, end quote, as well as restricting the strains that require state care. The board also sought to examine the ancestral caliber of immigrants being allowed into the country. As usual, feeble-mindedness took the spotlight. Several key regions of the East Coast were targeted for investigation. Perhaps the most militant of the eugenic research bodies was the Eugenics Research Association, created in June of 1913 at Cold Spring Harbor. The body was determined to escalate its research into legislative and administrative action and public propaganda for the causes of eugenics, raceology, and the Nordic race supremacy. As such, the Eugenics Research Association brought together America's most esteemed eugenic medical practitioners, the field's most respected university professors, the movement's most intellectual theorists, and the nation's most rabid eugenic racists. Only 51 charter members created the ERA, and its ranks did not exceed 500 in the later years. Those 51 charter members included men and women from the senior echelons of psychology, such as Yerkes and Adolf Mayer. Later, Goddard, Brigham, Turum, and other intelligence measurement authorities would join up. Professors from the medical schools and life science departments of Harvard, Columbia, Yale, Emory, Brown, and Johns Hopkins were counted among the ranks. All right, again, I'm going to chime in real quick. Did you hear that list of prominent institutions? These professors were instructing and preaching eugenics to the future lawyers, judges, doctors, politicians, teachers of the United States, and to foreign students who, after graduating, took this information back to their countries. All right, so back to the book, it says, two race hatred fanatics, Madison Grant and Lathrop Stoddard, achieved leadership roles within the organization. Grant was internationally known for his bestseller, The Passing of the Great Race, which promoted Nordic whites as a superior race. Grant's book, revered by eugenicists, lamented that America had been infested by a large and increasing number of weak, the broken, and the mentally crippled of all races drawn from the lowest stratum of the Mediterranean basin and the Balkans, together with hordes of the wretched, submerged populations of the Polish ghetto. Grant called these human flotsam. Stoddard would write an equally belligerent bestseller, published by Scribner's, entitled The Rising Tide of Color Against the White World Supremacy. Harvard-educated Stoddard defiantly summarized his science in these words, quote, "You cannot make bad stock into good, any more than you can turn a cart horse into a hunter by putting it into a fine stable, or making a mongrel into a fine dog by teaching it tricks." Okay, I'm going to wrap up this video very soon. I just wanted to cover a few more topics to really bring it home. I want to show you how eugenics was able to flourish and become the basis for changing the United States going forward from this time period. All right, on to page 112, it states, in 1912, shortly before the Eugenics Record Office installed its Board of Scientific Directors, the New York State Legislature had created the Rockefeller Foundation, which boasted fabulous assets. John D. Rockefeller donated $35 million the first year and $65 million more the next year. Shy and intensely private, the oil heirs seemed to enjoy corresponding with Davenport about sundry eugenic topics. On January 27, 1912, using his personal 26 Broadway stationery, the young Rockefeller wrote Davenport a letter about a plan to incarcerate feeble-minded criminal women for an extra length of time so they would, quote, be kept from perpetuating their kind until after the period of childbearing had been passed. Then it goes on to say, big money made all the difference for eugenics. Indeed, biological supremacy, raceology, and the coercive eugenic battle plans were just talk until those ideas married into American affluence. With that affluence came the means and the connections to make eugenic theory an administrative reality. Mrs. Harriman, the railroad heiress, wielded great power. When she made a request to New York state officials, it was difficult for them to say no. Davenport's proposed county surveys in search of the unfit, for example, were implemented by state officials. Eugenic agencies were established, often bearing innocuous names. Robert Hubbard, Secretary of the State of New York State Board of Charities, reported to Mrs. Harriman that, quote, our Eugenics Bureau is known officially as the Bureau of Analysis and Investigation, end quote. In describing the agency's work, Hubbard's letter reflected the usual eugenic parlance. The study of groups of defective individuals is so closely related to the welfare of future generations that the lessons drawn from the histories of abnormal families can prevent the continuance of conditions which foster social evils, end quote. He added that, to this end, the records of some 300,000 people had already been tabulated in 24 of New York State's counties. Hubbard promised to coordinate his agency's work with privately financed eugenic field surveys. In Rock County, under your direction, he deferentially added, permit me to say that it is gratifying to know your deep interest in this branch of work of the State Board of Charities. Another such agency was organized that became known as the National Committee on Prison and Prison Labor, first organized in 1910 by the New York State Department of Labor to investigate the exploitation of convict manufactured goods. 4 years later, the body changed its name amid a widening of its activities. Judge Olson, the stalwart eugenic activist who also directed the Municipal Court of Chicago's Psychopathic Laboratory, steered his colleagues on the prison committee to create similar municipal psychopathic labs to document hereditary criminality in their cities. The New York Police Department did indeed establish a psychopathic laboratory for eugenic investigations, utilizing Eugenics Record Office field workers supplied by Mrs. Harriman. Davenport himself headed up the prison's group's special committee on eugenics, which was established, quote, to get at the hereditary factors and antisocial behavior with the aid of a careful family history, end quote. Prisoners at Sing Sing were the first to be examined by Davenport's researchers under a year-long joint project with the Eugenics Record Office. Page 115. There was no way for the public to know if a seemingly unrelated government agency was actively pursuing a eugenic agenda. The United States Department of Agriculture maintained an active role in America's eugenic movement by virtue of its quasi-official domination of the American Breeders Association. Various Department of Agriculture officials either sponsored or officially encouraged eugenic research. Agriculture Department meetings went beyond the bounds of simple agronomy. They often encompassed human breeding as well. On November 14, 1912, Professor C.L. Goodrich at the Washington office of the Department of Agriculture was asked by a colleague in the USDA's Columbia, South Carolina office whether two Negro siblings, both with 6 fingers on each hand, should be brought to the ABA meeting at the National Corn Exposition for eugenic evaluation. Professor Goodrich, who controlled the presentations of the ABA's eugenic section, replied a few days later, "Have the children brought. I will put them on the program for a paper before the eugenics section." Then it goes on to say on January 3rd, 1913, Davenport wrote George W. Core at the USDA in Washington asking, quote, "If not too late, please add 2 titles to the eugenics program. One of these would be Davenport's own last-minute entry, quote, a biologist's view of the Southern Negro problem," end quote. Then moving on further down the page, it says, Secretary of Agriculture James Wilson doubled as president of the ABA. At the group's 1913 convention, he rallied the forces. In his presidential address, Wilson declared, quote, "You have developed in your eugenics section a great experiment station and institution of research with a splendid building called the Eugenics Record Office. Your laboratory material is the heredity that runs through the veins of the good, bad, and the indifferent families of our great country, assembling the genetic data of thousands of families, making records of the very souls of our people, of the very life essence of our racial blood. Those families which have in them degenerate blood will have new reason for more slowly increasing their kind. Those families in whose veins runs the blood of royal efficiency will have added reason for the pride which will induce them to multiply their kind," end quote. Please keep in mind, folks, President Wilson ran this country for 8 years, and this is the kind of thought process he had. So yeah, scary. And trust me, folks, he wasn't sitting on his hands those 8 years. He was busy furthering his agenda, making sure the right, or should I say the white families were multiplying. All right, so moving on January 3rd, 1913, former President Theodore Roosevelt wrote Davenport, quote, "I agree with you that society has no business to permit degenerates to reproduce their kind. Someday we will realize that the prime duty, the inescapable duty of the good citizen of the right type is to leave his or her blood behind in the world, and that we have no business to permit the perpetuation of citizens of the wrong type," end quote. See, I'm sure you all thought Teddy was a great guy, but yeah, this is what he was thinking. It's just like many things we don't cover in our education. Unfortunately, our history has been written to glorify our leaders, regardless of what they thought or did. And what happens is we end up scratching our heads after we've had our history lessons, wondering, if everything was so great, how do we end up the way we are now? Now, some of you watching this would say, well, hey, there's nothing wrong with this country. Everything's perfect. Well, that's because you're probably of the privileged class. For many of us, that's not the case. All right, so moving on to the book, it says Dr. Ada Comstock, president of Radcliffe College, declared publicly, quote, "Eugenics is the greatest concern of the human race. The development of civilization depends on it," end quote. Dr. Albert Wiggum, an author and leading member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, pronounced his belief, quote, "Had Jesus been among us, he would have been president of the first Eugenic Congress," page 118. All right, lastly on page 118 it states, "While many of America's elite exalted eugenics, the original Galtonian eugenicists in Britain were horrified by the sham science they saw thriving in the United States and taking root in their own country. In a merciless 1913 scientific paper written on behalf of the Galton Laboratory, British scientist David Heron publicly excoriated the American eugenics of Davenport, Laughlin, and the Eugenics Record Office. Using the harshest possible language, Heron warned against, quote, certain recent American work which has been welcomed in this country as of first-class importance, but the teaching of which we hold to be fallacious and indeed actually dangerous to social welfare," end quote. His accusations, quote, careless presentation of data, inaccurate methods of analysis, irresponsible expression of conclusions, and rapid change of opinion, end quote. Heron lamented further, "When we find such teaching based on the flimsiest of theories and on the most superficial of inquiries proclaimed in the name of eugenics, and spoken of as entirely splendid work, we feel that it is not possible to use criticism too harsh, nor words too strong in repudiation of advice which, if accepted, must mean the death of eugenics as a science, end quote. All right, so basically, to summarize the last paragraph, there were British eugenicists that believed in the original theory of Galtonian eugenics, but they wholeheartedly disagreed with the non-scientific methods used to derive the bogus theories and conclusions American eugenicists were teaching and using to demonize people. Finally, on page 120 it reads, "The millions of Mrs. Harriman, relic of the great railroad promoter, assisted by other millions of Rockefeller and Carnegie, are to be devoted to sterilization of several hundred thousands of American defectives annually as a matter of eugenics." It is true that we don't yet know all of the millions of our plutocracy can do to the common folks. We see that our moneyed plutocrats can own the governments of whole states, override constitutions, maintain private armies to shoot down men, women, and children, and railroad innocent men to life imprisonment for murder or lesser crimes. And if we submit to such things, we ought not be surprised if they undertake to sterilize all those who are obnoxious to them. All right, so I wanted to bring this information to your attention so you can see and understand what's gone on in the United States and abroad to shape our society. What is truly sad is you would never get this vital information in any of our educational institutions. Why? Because they are still espousing this nonsense. It has infiltrated and influenced all of our institutions. As you heard in this video, this information was taught in schools. Our grandparents were presented with this junk science and philosophy in their classrooms, in their homes, via textbooks, magazines, newspapers, and journals. It was often legitimized and promoted by presidents, the military, congressional members, governors, and state and local governments. The information was taught via university and high school curriculum and virtually spread by anyone that felt like they wanted to bully others. There is so much more information in this book, as I mentioned. It's over 600 pages. This book is very accessible. I utilized the Kindle version for this video. If you want an even deeper understanding, I recommend you get this book. I really wanted to go more in depth with the information, however, I didn't want to lose you. My main goal was to break this information down like a police investigation. Any basic investigation will reveal who, what, when, where, and how something happened. So what I did was show you who was responsible for our rewritten history, what they did to accomplish the task, when it came to fruition, where it was taught worldwide, and how it was spread and used to manipulate not only the United States, but the world as we know it today. As I mentioned earlier in the video, the information in this book was carefully documented. I would dare to say there were approximately 100 pages in the back of this book dedicated to where this information was sourced. There are also several pages of interesting photos. Do me a favor, folks, please comment and let me know what you think.
Hey.
Also, stay tuned for my next video. Hopefully it won't take as long to create the next one.
Hey, Shalom, straight up. We appreciate you. Surfed away with straight up, man. He's doing some great work, man. You know what I'm saying? Just clicking on some of his recent stuff. You know, I mean, investigating, like you said, who, what, when, where. I mean, this is what we doing with Prester John. Who, what, why, when. We were trying to figure it out. We're in between the timelines, but I see a lot more water, you know what I'm saying, to swim in. And we appreciate you, bro. This is great, you know what I'm saying? This is something that, you know, all we can do is continue to add on and get more validation, man. I mean, with due meditation, these people have done what they've done. Remember, with due meditation, doctrine of discovery, right? And we've seen it, right? We've seen it. Same thing with the, you know, Confederate tribes, Psalm 83, right? We weighing all singular the premises with due meditation. This is the silent weapon, the quiet war. You know, this is the strategic, careful, crafty counsel. You know, everything we've been talking about in Psalms 83. And this is eugenics, man. Invading you is a big part of eugenics. Searching you out, right? They're trying to search, you know, all your records to see if they should sterilize you based on your genes, right? They're going through trying to find out who your ancestors are to target whoever to sterilize. Like, nah, we can't have no more. Really, they trying to stop Neo, right? They trying to stop Neo from coming out this mug, right? So they don't want any more Neos coming out, right? They don't want love to Sophia Stewart. They don't want the one coming, right? To invade, search out, capture. Capturing you is a big part of eugenics. Vanquishing you is a big part of eugenics. Everything we're looking at, whether we're looking at Papal Bull or we're looking at Psalms 83 Confederacy, cutting you off from being a nation is eugenics, my nigga, against the treasure ones of HaWah. No more in remembrance. That's eugenics, right? Iconoclast, because they're consulted together with one consent. They're united. It's our time to unite. This is our greatest weapon, and this is their greatest fear. They made a covenant with each other so that we are no more in remembrance. They have laid open the book of the law wherein the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. First Maccabees, right? And they are definitely meditating with due meditation, crafty converse, right? To invade, you know the rest. You know the rest. You know the rest. All enemies of their son, God, right? God, God. Because now they can appropriate all your things to their successors, they say. And they've taken all your islands and land. They're taking everything, right? And they've given it to successors. They've given it to descendants, right? Because you're enemies of their son. Amaru Khan. What? They've cut us off from being a nation, from being natural by law, by the Creator. First, we had to, get out of coal. We stopped KTC. You know what I mean? And you copper color Nagas found here. Now your titles are being applied. Now applied. Now applied. The Khan, the priest, Khan means priest, the priesthood in Hebrew. The Hebrew priesthood is now applied to descendants or successors of Europeans born in America. They've taken your kingdoms, dukedoms, counties, principalities, dominions, that's everything, possessions, everything, all your goods, and converted them to their use and profit. Papal bulldog to take down all y'all ravishing mammals. Issue Vatican papals tricking Adam and Eve to bite the Vatican apple. History is not fact. Oh, I'm right on time. Ty Bazan is in the drop chatter. Chatter. Hey, she dropping that drop. Ty Bazani. What it do? Top of the soul bone. By the way, you live on part 3 of what do we call it? Let's just say black eugenics. Man, Halal HaWah. Hey, I had to let Ty Bazan know she lied. She tried to sneak in here, man. Hey, we out of here, baby. Hey, the water for surfing away. Just know that the drop chatter box is protected. Blue, purple, red, white linen go thread. Keep tuning in to 432 to Drop Radio. Keep supporting Joy World the Water to all our contributors. Keep surfing the wave. We got brand new ether shows dropping. Today, Wednesday, love to my jigger yourself. We got a new schedule, man. So just enjoy the waterfall, your donations on our PayPal, everything you're doing, man. Get that recon, man. Love to Yosef, Nine Spiral, man. All the cons making major action, you know what I'm saying? And tribal music's popping off, man. They have to all the support on Cash App as well. All the sponsors, man, become a sponsor for 432 to drop. All our Ether Squad. Just click on drop sponsors and get the drop, man. Hey, Ty Bass popping off, man. She said, oh, no. My bad. I tried to sneak in. Hey, Dewada to my cons. Hey, true A-Hop to you. Hey, we're almost there. Help us get over the mark and continue to get over the mark right here, man. Building our fence for Joy World, Brooklyn Jenkins, What It Do, Brendan Zavala, Anthony Largate, all the anonymous cons, Doretta, Will I, all the cons, man. We will never forget, man, how much the tribe has come together to see us prosper, you know what I'm saying, to see HaWah's code and us prosper, you know what I'm saying, to see the Most High over everything, be the Most High over everything to the cons, to us, so that we are no longer out of remembrance. We are no longer cut off, man. And they can never, ever come against the cons with their consulting. Their one consent, their covenant don't mean jack, man. All these tribes against us don't mean jack. All they hate don't mean jack. Only HaWah. Only HaWah can bring these tribes back together, back into remembrance. Not with their covenant. Nah, not with their covenant. With our covenant. As we return, seek HaWah, and we come trembling back to our Creator directly. The goodness, which is what? The fat of the land, your peace, your security, your breath, Managa, your water. In the end of days, the Wada and Shalawam to the Khan dynasty. Stay up, suit up, choose up.